And we welcome you to this live edition of In the Circle. It's the 2023 season preview. Eric Lopez here alongside Victor Anderson, who just got in from a crazy day he's had broadcasting in Vieira. We may not get to that at the end. I don't know what just happened. My computer's thankfully working. That was not the case an hour ago. And the one that's probably had the calmest of days, or one of our co-hosts, it's become a tradition in our season preview, from Extra Innings Softball, Justin McLeod, who's joining us from his Cheap Seats, which is the name of his new podcast. Hello, gentlemen.
You use that term loosely.
Yeah, we got a couple guys. We got a catbird seat and a cheap seat guy. I mean, I don't know. We're watching. Coming up, we're going to preview this 2023 college softball season. This is going to be in depth. We'll have a couple of guests joining us, which Victor will tell us about in a moment. We'll talk about who's the team to maybe compete with Oklahoma for the national championship, who's the player of the year, and then our infamous World Series picks, I'm sure, at the end. Vic, who we got? Two great guests, though. Who we got?
Yes, coming up at the bottom of this hour, we will have Pac-12 Network analyst and host of Bleav in Softball, Jenna Becerra. We talk about podcasts with our good friend over there, Justin McLeod. Jenna starting season 4 of her podcast coming up. We may get her to reveal who her first guest is going to be. Who knows? And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to be joined by ACC Network Extra analyst and former Seminole pitcher Caylan Arnold to talk all things ACC. Make sure you share your comments with us, ask your questions, share your bowl predictions, your Women's College World Series picks. We may get to them during the show. We got 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen. It's a traditional like any other. Often imitated, never duplicated, but let's get things rolling.
That's correct. And, of course, I would certainly make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got lots of content coming up. Our podcast, we are, if you've missed, we've had I think I ran up over 70 head coaches on the show over the last couple of months, so you can catch up with your favorite coach from your favorite league to talk about the season coming up. We still got a few more this upcoming week before opening day. We also, Monday's podcast, we're going to have Amanda Scarborough.
We're going to just tell the folks now. We're not going to wait.
We're just not. Listen.
Fair enough.
Everybody thinks they have their little season previews and all their little sites.
But they do.
They do. That's cute. Nobody covers the sport like we do. We're going to cover all 32 conferences on Monday's episode. In fact, Justin is going to have the caffeine ready because after we go off the air, me and Justin are going to preview the 27 conferences that are not in the Power 5. That's right. All 27. I hope you're ready for this long night, Justin.
Wow.
Ready is a relative term.
And those episodes, by the way, that with Justin will air Sunday night on the YouTube channel for all you YouTube subscribers. Same with the Scarborough, among others. All right. The big question, obviously, going into the season is Oklahoma. They are the 2-time defending national champions. By the way, if you're on the chat, feel free to send your questions. We'll address them as time goes on. But the first question I have for both of you gentlemen is the Sooners. They are the 2-time defending national champions. They're the unanimous number 1 ranked team in the country. They've really reloaded. They've got Alex Dorocco added to the rotation to form a 1-2 punch there with Jordy Ball. They've added Haley Lee. They've added Cindy Sanders. They've added Torres. The question is, who can challenge Oklahoma and perhaps dethrone them for the national championship? Starting with you, Justin.
If anybody's going to, I have to qualify it from the outset here. It's got to be UCLA or Oklahoma State. To me, if Oklahoma is a clear top tier, which they are, UCLA and Oklahoma State are clearly on that tier underneath. It's to me, those are the 3 best teams in the country. There are other teams that are strong. There are other teams that have strengths. There are other teams that can win games, all that qualifying stuff. But if anybody's going to actually pose a challenge to OU, it's got to be one of those two. To me, it's an easy 1, 2, 3. So if 1 is easy, then to me 2 and 3 have to be just simple. And for me, those don't take any thought. 1, 2, 3, bam, bam, bam. So it's got to be one of those 2.
Well, for me, and I don't want to give anything away in terms of where I'm going to be leaning for my national championship pick. My best bet is probably Florida State because you look at what they have coming back with Michaela Eddingfield in her sophomore year, Mudge, the rest of that offense. You get Kat Sandercock back for her swan song season. You add an Allison Royalty from Arizona State. You add an Allie Dubois, who we know Eric from her time at Boston U, two-time Patriot League Pitcher of the Year, redshirted last year so she can get acclimated to being under the Lonnie Alameda system at Florida State, getting acclimated to the program. If those two can pitch to the way we think they can pitch and give Sander Cox some rest and have her be rested and fresher going into the postseason, then I think Florida State, in terms of pitching alone, can be equal to what UCLA and what Oklahoma State will be presenting this season. The only question is, will anybody have the offense to match what Patty Gasso and company have going in Norman this year?
Some of the comments on our chat, Cheyenne Roller with her prediction already for OKC. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Duke, Washington, and UCF. And Arkansas for OKC in June. She goes, I don't mind those picks, some of them anyway.
Let's see.
Can anyone beat Oklahoma 2 times, says Cheyenne Roller. Hasn't been done since 2019 National Championship when UCLA did it. I'm with you, Justin. I think UCLA is the team to do at the top there, right? They reloaded themselves at the portal. We'll talk more about that with Jenna Becerra when she joins us later in the program. Oklahoma State, we had Kenny Gajewski on the show. He thinks he has the best pitching staff that he's had since he's been at Oklahoma State. So I think that remains to be seen. And but I think those teams are probably the teams. I mean, it's not a surprise if you look at the polls. UCLA's 2, Oak State 3. I think FSU is 4 in most of those polls that have been out. There's a lot of polls nowadays.
By the way, I just want to state right now that we're going to keep a composite record of all the polls from all of the different publications, and we're going to keep a running tally. So we're going to talk about it on Thursday. Mainly, I'm just going to use this so Eric can absolutely bash the polls because that's kind of his thing nowadays because he's given the selection committee a pass over the last couple of years, Justin. So I need to give him some new fodder to rant on.
Steve B's asking, Justin will need a lot of Dr. Peppers. How many Dr. Peppers you got, Justin?
I think we're 4 in today.
Wow.
Only?
Already?
Can't load up on the front end when you got a lot of stuff to do in the back end. You got to set it up right. Touche.
Steve B says that UCLA, Oklahoma State, FSU are his main threats for Oklahoma there. Michelle Carlin, Bruins in the house.
Yes.
Comments there. Let's see. So we'll get into that there. Sooner NCO goes, the only team that can beat Oklahoma for the title would be OU. They are absolutely loaded. So we'll see how that goes. Katrina Jensen says too much sugar. Justin.
I mean, she's not wrong, but liquid energy is liquid energy. I can't explain
in whatever manner you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk a little Big 12. Let's start with the champs. They're in that league, and Oklahoma State's in that league. I think that's the top 2 teams that they're going to finish the season at Bedlam. Justin, if I understand it, you're planning on going to be at Bedlam this year to cover it. Is that correct?
First time in 12 years I actually get to cover it in person. It's going to be fun.
So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that matchup, those 2 teams, and the Big 12?
I mean, to me, Bedlam will be the first set of proof in the pudding on whether OSU can actually challenge OU when the World Series comes around. That's going to be a sign because if you think about it, last year Oklahoma rolls over Oklahoma State, not rolls over, but beats them, and then Oklahoma State returns the favor in 1 game in the Big 12 tournament. And so it's like, a little bit of a tit for tat, but not really. OU still comes out on top if you do you pile everything together. OU still got a sizable, but OSU made advancements. To me, I think the Big 12 is a 2-horse race, not a 3-horse race, a 2-horse race, and by a fairly large margin. And I think that second tier in the Big 12 this year is more populated, maybe at least 3 with maybe a 4th team giving it their best shot to be there. So I think OU, OSU down the stretch, I mean, that's honestly why I'm covering Bedlam in person is because I think it's going to be a series that I'm not going to say it defines the season, but I think Bedlam this year is going to be one of those series we remember for one reason or another because it's going to be a test for Oklahoma. they're not going to be tested a ton, but it's going to be a test just because that rivalry, and we've seen what Oklahoma State can do. They've beaten them. Few people have. Kelly Maxwell, that kind of thing. And if OSU pulls it off, then obviously we're going to remember it for, upset reasons, so to speak. But to me, that's going to be the battle for the Big 12 right there.
It's going to be very interesting. Texas, very young. Guys, what's your thoughts on the Longhorns there? And then the other question is, the Big 12 only had 3 teams in the tournament last year. All 3 made it to the World Series, so it's a good high percentage. But what about Baylor, Iowa State? You got Craig Snyder at Texas Tech taking over at head coach. Kansas there. Baylor, obviously, they feel they got a lot of players back from last year. Iowa State has a lot returning. What about the rest of the Big 12, starting with Texas, who loses Haley Docini, loses Jefferson, loses Iacopo from a team that played for the national title?
One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to doubt Mike White and what he's built. And I was talking to a couple of people before the show, and they felt that the way Texas has been recruiting and they've been building, they got teams that I can see them. Are they going to be World Series caliber right now? Probably not, but don't be surprised if, depending on the right regional, Texas can possibly make it to supers. Again, depending on what regional that they make, because people are going to talk Oklahoma State all day, every day, twice on Sunday. They're not going to credit Texas for what they did a year ago, especially with the firepower that you mentioned, Eric, that they lost. A lot of people are high on Baylor. I think Baylor, with the experience they had last year, that run they made in the postseason with the NISC, that serves them well. If you look at the history of that tournament, teams from one year after playing in the NISC, making a deep run, winning the tournament to the following year, they make that jump, making it into the NCAA tournament. Don't be surprised if Baylor does a similar thing with a lot of talent that they have and them fortifying themselves via the transfer portal.
Justin, you're very high on Baylor.
High on Baylor, low on Texas. I think Baylor actually could be the number 3 team in the Big 12 this year.
Woo!
I mean,
there we go. He's stirring the pot.
Here we go, folks.
Or stirring the Dr. Pepper. However you want to do it.
Well, I mean, to me, so Baylor first. I like what Glenn Moore's put together, and I don't think Glenn Moore and Baylor get the credit for one particular thing. They have won the transfer battle, not the transfer battle, but with the transfers they've gotten the last few years, they have won. They have picked correctly. You think of what Mackenzie Wilson. Well, she's not homegrown. She was a transfer. Baylor's not usually where you think of, okay, transfers. But at that point, that the switch flipped. Something changed. And Baylor's gone into the portal. Glenn Moore's talked about it. He didn't necessarily like it at first, but you got to do what you got to do. You go and get transferred, and they've won with them. Wilson and Orme in the circle. This year they've got Caylan Govan, who I really like. She'll come back from injury this year, but I think she's got some serious power potential even in the Big 12. And, I just think Baylor, they used to be an NCAA tournament stalwart. They were always there. Last couple of years, down. Even the year they made the tournament, they were quick out. I think last year you saw a little bit of resurgence. You saw a little bit of life that maybe we thought Baylor didn't have. And they go win the NISC. Sure, it's not the NCAA tournament, but it's still a postseason tournament. It's still teams you haven't played during the year. You still have to prepare the same way to a certain extent. They go and win it. I do think they've got the talent level there. I mentioned Govan coming in this year. If they can keep their pitching healthy, which kind of has been their kryptonite, even going back to Gio Rodoni's last couple of years. If they can keep their pitching healthy and keep their lineup healthy, besides, Kyla Walker's last year, she wasn't even healthy. That's going to be that's been their kryptonite. That's still going to be their kryptonite. If they can keep them healthy, though, I think Baylor's got a good shot at a run this year. I've got Baylor, honestly, is somebody I think is good enough, not saying they're going to be, but as somebody who's good enough to at some point in the year be in the conversation to host a regional. I don't think they're going to get there, but I think they've got the capabilities of being in that conversation.
Wow. Katrina Jensen jumping in. Justin dropping the hammer on Texas. Mike White wants to meet Justin in the alley.
I mean, I just the way let's not forget Texas was not a regional host last year, and without Haley Dolcini, they're out in the regional. Without Haley Dolcini, that Texas team finishes the way they started in Clearwater. You get Haley Dolcini, you're on Haley Dolcini, and honestly, let's be honest. If the Arkansas Razorbacks managed to make an in-game adjustment and hit a changeup in Game 3 of the Super, Texas never sniffs the World Series either. So a lot of things had to go right. And yes, there's absolutely skill and talent involved. And we know not to bet against Mike White. But at the same time, there was also a lot of luck involved. There was skill, but also luck involved in Texas getting where they did last year. I mean, let's be honest. We were all watching the World Series. We all saw what happened in the Oklahoma State-Texas game, right there in the semifinals in the World Series. A lot of things had to go Texas's way that Texas didn't involve Texas. Like, Texas Arkansas couldn't hit Sophia Simpson. Well, sure, that's Texas throwing Simpson, but if Arkansas makes an adjustment, Texas doesn't control that. The fact that they didn't, Texas doesn't control that. The errors on Oklahoma State, Texas doesn't control that. They put themselves in position. Things happen, sure, and I'm not taking away from the run Texas had last year, but there was some luck involved in addition to the skill, and then you graduated so much of that skill. Iakopo, gone. Janae Jefferson, gone. Haley Dolcini, gone. Like, you never bet against Mike White, but at the same time, you've got to, I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Wait till you folks, if you think he had a hot take on Texas. Victor, stay quiet through this. He's just staying out of it. Don't want to even part about it. He doesn't want the Texas anger. By the way, we're just going to just ignore Jamie Pinkerton and Iowa State. We're just going to dismiss the Cyclones. Huh? Now we don't even consider him the fourth best team. He was the fourth best team last year. No talk, huh? Okay, just saying.
Still a team worth. I mean, Iowa State could go back to the tournament. It's not. Maybe they're an afterthought because I can tout Baylor and I can bash Texas, but Iowa State could be a tournament team again.
Do you think it could be a 4 or 5 bid league this year?
I think it could be a 5 bid league. I don't think they will be. I think somebody's going to get left out, but I think they have 5 teams that are worth getting there.
All right. Marinthia Bell. Yes, we lose the experience in Mary, Janae, Haley, but the returners of Estelle, Bella, Mia, and Courtney carried the offense and circle at the World Series. Oh, you've angered Austin, folks in good old Austin, Texas, Justin.
Andrew Haynes would not be happy with you, sir.
Oh, I know Haynes. Yeah. Victor, you're the witness. I had nothing to do with all of that.
Don't worry. I'll be hearing it up close and in person. Hopefully, I'll be hearing it up close and in person when Texas goes to Tampa middle of March. I'm sure he will.
I see Texas opening week in like 5 days.
Oh, that's right. Justin's going to be at Clearwater.
Have fun with that one.
So he'll get to see Andrew Haynes. So, Victor, if you hear about an incident in Clearwater, now we know.
Well,
hopefully it doesn't go to that point.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens here. Other comments here. Nick Torina chiming in. Yes. Anybody remember when Victor picked FSU in 2017? Wow. Wow.
I'm not here to talk about the past.
Unbelievable there. That is wild.
I think we're going to go that low this early, Nick.
I would like to tell one commenter that I do also drink water in addition to Dr. Pepper. I try to ration.
Well, people are really mad. So me and Justin, I've decided. Me and Justin will we'll preview all 27 conferences Sunday night. We'll do it Sunday.
Thank you.
All right, Sunday. So be on the lookout.
It's not like you got anything to do on Sunday.
This is true.
Thank you.
So we'll see how that goes. So that's the story on the Big 12 conference there, and we'll see. I mean, what's the big question you have about Oklahoma's team overall, guys? What's the big question that you have? That particular. Start with you, Justin.
Well, for me, the only question that I have that I actually have, it's the only question I don't have to think about to come up with, is how are these transfers are going to mesh in? Because if you think about it, Patty Gasso's style has not been adding transfers. It's been those homegrown kids. You add this many transfers, you're bringing in people from different places with different personalities that have learned under other regimes and that kind of stuff. It's just a new thing. Do I think Patty Gasso can integrate them in fine? Absolutely. But that to me is the only question is, are these transfers going to come in? Because if you think about it, there's 2 players. There's a freshman, there's Kinsey Hansen. Then you've got Sydney Sanders and Haley Lee coming by a transfer. All 4 of them play the same positions. Like there's only 3 positions to go around for those 4, or somebody's playing their unnatural position. So to me, That's my one thing is how do those transfers mesh in? You know, how does the locker room work out down the stretch? That to me is really the only thing that I genuinely have questions about for OU.
Vic?
I think for Sanders and Lee, not so much Storako. How do they handle being in the spotlight constantly at Oklahoma? Because as we know, Eric and Justin, you know this as well. Oklahoma fans, they are passionate, they are loyal, and they understand that they're going to want the best from those young ladies every single game. How will they handle it from the outside, from people who don't want Oklahoma to win? How do they handle that particular? How can they handle being the team that is expected to be in Oklahoma City, exit 132A on June 9th or June 10th, hoisting a national championship trophy? That's going to be the biggest question, at least from my opinion, and how they get to that particular it's just going to be a process because you're going to see the Oklahoma team that people are going to be seeing in opening weekend in California won't be the same Oklahoma team that you will likely see in Oklahoma City in the Women's College World Series. So how quickly do they gel into that team that all of us think that they can be based on the talent that we've seen them display at other institutions before coming to Norman?
No Jocelyn Allo, the best player in the sport the last few years. And what's interesting about this year, gentlemen, is no Rachel Garcia, no Jocelyn Allo, who really have dominated the sport for the last 5 years. Between the two of them, they've dominated the Player of the Year award. My question to you, gentlemen, is coming into this season, who's the best player in college softball?
Tyre Jennings?
I mean, I'll throw Bailey Klingler. It's got to be one of the two.
Bailey Klingler, Washington, of course, led the Huskies there. Of course, Tiare Jennings for Oklahoma. Those are the two that certainly will be probably a popular pick going into the season. You got player like Sydney McKinney at Wichita State, which could be I know, Jesse, you feel that she could be the Georgina Corrick of this year in the standpoint of being that player from a, quote, non-Power 5 that can make a run for Player of the Year like Corrick did. Corrick was a top 3 finalist for the USA Softball Player of the Year and won the NFCA Pitcher of the Year. You think McKinney could be at that level?
Yeah, she's really freaking good. And she led the country in batting average last year. Like, she's one of the best hitters in the country. And now Wichita and her both have the names where she doesn't necessarily have to, she doesn't have to hit 600 with 4 home runs every weekend to be in that conversation. She's starting out from a better place. So, yeah, I think she absolutely could be. She's got the skills to back it up.
She may not even be the best player on her team. I may want to go to Addison Barnard. That's the thing. And I posed this question when I hosted a podcast when we had Chrissy Brett Benner and Ken Erickson on the show. By the way, you can listen to the podcast where we get the good podcast. Pick any 2 players in Oklahoma. Pick any 2 players in Oklahoma State. Pick any 2 players in UCLA. Pick any 2 players in Arkansas. Take those 4 schools out the way. Find me any better 1-2 offensive combination than Sydney McKinney and Addison Barnard.
I'll give you one. Florida. Skylar Wallace, Charlotte Eccles. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch there for the Gators. We'll talk a little bit about the SEC going in. It's going to be interesting. I think the Player of the Year race could be interesting this year. Valerie Cagle's one I like from Clemson, 2-way player for the Tigers. It's kind of a little underrated. I do like McKinney there. I think the American, you got McKinney, Addison Barnard, Jada Cody, had a great year for UCF. Could be maybe the best utility player. Could play catch. Could play third base. Interesting how the UCF will use her this year.
Hey, Eric, can you save all the UCF stuff for another UCF themed podcast, sir?
Which one? I don't know which one are you talking about. Anyway,
no comment.
It's a good segue though, Victor.
Yes.
Here's the next question: who is this year's UCF? A team that from the non-Power 5 that makes noise in the postseason. UCF hosted a regional last year, won the regional, got to the Supers. Many believe would have gotten to Oklahoma City if they didn't run into, if they had a detour to Norman instead. They would have had a different route. If somebody would have put them in a different route than Norman, they could have gotten to OKC. Of course, 2 years ago, you had James Madison that made the World Series. who's your team that you're looking for in 2023?
This might be a little bit. I think honestly, I'm gonna go with Boise State out of the Mountain West. Just missed the tournament last year. Got a lot of talent coming back. Justin Schultz, we've seen, and here's the thing with Justin Schultz. If you look at his track record, the teams make the biggest jumps from year 1 to year 2. And you look how Boise State ended last year. 40 wins, just on the outside looking in, had the highest winning percentage in conference play in school history. He got a lot of returners coming back. Boise State, if they get everything rolling and get some big marquee non-conference wins, Boise State has the coaching, they have the talent to be what UCF was last year.
Justin Schultz has a tough non-conference schedule. They're the favorites in the Mountain West. They will open the season in Orlando. So I will give you an answer there. I'll find out.
I'll expect the full report after that opening weekend, sir.
Justin, your response to that?
I'm going to go Raging Cajuns. I could give you 3 or 4 that I think fit that bill, but I'm going to go Raging Cajuns. This is not the team with the most talent that the Cajuns have had with Jerry Glasgow, but I actually think it's the best team they've had with Jerry Glasgow. You don't have those Power 5 transfers and things like that you had. You have a lot of young players. You have a lot of homegrown players. The transfers that have come in are now out. I really like their pitching staff in Cajun Land. I really like their pitching staff. And I think the offense has some talent on it that can make a difference. I expect them. I mean, yes, it's going to be them in Texas State in the Sun Belt. I expect them to win the Sun Belt. And I think they certainly play a tough non-conference schedule, so they're going to be tested. This theory could go away in 2.5 weeks of the season. They could just absolutely not be very good. I don't think that's going to happen. But because they're going to be that level of tested, I think it will come in handy when the postseason comes around. I think they'll be in a good position when the postseason comes out. So I'm going to go Raging Cajuns.
And Eric Lopez at 827 has the first screen issue of the live stream. So those of you who took the over under 827, congratulations. Please tweet at Eric Lopez to collect your prize.
It was probably a good thing because I think I swore there.
Good.
Everybody's talking North Texas, gentlemen. A lot of buzz for Rodney DeLong, who won CUSA last year. Is it legit?
Yeah, it's got some legitimacy to it. I mean, I think the biggest thing now is the shoes on the other foot. North Texas, they know they have the goods. They got to the tournament, got to the regional final, but can they handle the pressure? I think they should be fine. Truth be told, I think they're going to be a solid team again. But to me, that's the biggest question for them is can they hold up under the pressure and the expectation because there is so much buzz around them.
Yeah, and it's USA conference that could be in the mix for maybe the best non-Power 5 conference. Mm-hmm. Texas State, obviously Jessica Mullins pushing there. I do like the Cajuns a lot. I'm with you there, Justin. To me, the most fascinating league is going to be the American. Last year for UCF and Houston in the league. The question is, who's the best pitcher in the American? With Georgina Korick graduating. You have Gianna Mancha graduating. She's now in the pros, Victor. You saw her in the WPF. Excel. She'll be back for a second season. Her and Kamal Woodall graduated. Then you also had a situation where Wichita State graduated their top 2 pitchers. It's going to be interesting. A lot of talent offensively with UCF and Wichita State. Which pitchers step up there? South Florida, life without Korick. Does a Peyton Dixon, a freshman, step in for them there among the pitchers? They've had a history of finding the next great pitcher. Who is that? Is it Gabrielle Norrie, the transfer from Lehigh that won the conference title for the Bulls? Those remains to be seen. UCF, Caitlin Felton in her second year, a sophomore. You got Cochran, a young freshman they like a lot. You got, Sarah Willis, a transfer from Washington. You got Grace Jewell. You've got a ton there, gentlemen. Lots of intriguing questions around the American. And I think whoever's pitching steps up. Wichita State returns Cooper. They got Howell coming from a transfer from Arkansas that you're intrigued by, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't pitch a whole lot at Arkansas, but she's a solid arm. But I honestly don't think you mentioned the best pitcher in the American. I think the best pitcher in the American right now is Kenna Wilkie at Houston.
Northwestern transfer had a good year last year. Second team all conference for the Cougars. And that could be if she's can maintain that, could put Houston as a sleeper there.
Yeah, I mean, she's a difference maker for Houston. She didn't get much of a chance to pitch at Northwestern. She played summer ball a couple of years, pitched well there, goes to Houston, finally gets her shot, pitched as well. I think that's the best pitcher in the American right now and going forward. And so I think, Wichita and UCF, I think it's, okay, which of those is just going to have the better pitching? I don't even think you have to have the best pitcher in the conference. It's just whose pitching is better at the right times.
Yeah, I agree. Who's good enough? And then, of course, UCF, Houston will move on to the Big 12 next year. The big question is Oklahoma, Texas. How long are they going to be in the Big 12? Pete Thamel with a report that there was no deal struck. Basically, Fox Sports blocked it. Basically, like the conference, according to Brett McMurphy, the conference and OU and Texas have a deal done. They have an agreement. The problem is the TV networks don't agree with it. So that's a bit of an issue. And always great to know that Fox is involved. All they've done is ruin Major League Baseball, hockey, among other things we'll get into. I'm not even going to get into the rest because that could open up a whole can of worms of all the other stuff Fox has done.
Not going to go down that. Let's segue, gentlemen, if you will.
That is significant news. Big 12, what happens there, whether OU's there a year or 2 years. Texas, I think that story's far from over. This thing will probably drag out another few months before we get a clear answer on that. But that's some of the negotiating storylines there for sure. So we'll see how that goes, impacts. Of course, a league that will be talked about a lot, Pac-12, Mr. Gentlemen. To me, and who else are we going to have on this show that's better than our good friend Jenna Becerra? It's become a regular now, tradition unlike any other. Former Stanford Cardinal, now on the Pac-12 network, hosts her own podcast that Justin's trying to mimic, obviously. How you doing, Jenna?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here, and I am glad that Justin is joining us. Welcome to the crew now.
Welcome to the podcast family, Justin. Welcome to the podcast mafia.
I knew I liked you.
Well, she had you on your show last year, Justin. You're going to have to return the favor at some point.
Oh, you just gotta believe these backroom deals are happening, sir.
Okay, conversations have happened. Yeah.
Okay. I hate to interject the proceedings, but you had Eric on your show, Jenna. You had Justin on your show. I'm just gonna leave it right there.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that, Victor. I was waiting for it. It'll happen.
It actually took longer than I expected, to be honest with you.
Well, in fairness, Jenna's very busy. She's doing a lot
of
broadcasts.
Aware of this, yes.
And your season podcast. See, this is always just a cheap way of bringing up your podcast, Jenna. Tell us about your podcast because your new season's coming up.
Yes, Bleav in Softball Season 4 is launching. So I keep telling everybody that I am now a senior because it's my 4th year doing this. So I feel like a senior all over again. But it's with Bleav Network, which is spelled BLEAV. So Bleav in Softball. Available on all the big platforms, including YouTube, and you can follow us on social media on Instagram and Twitter at Bleav in Softball as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. You got some good guests coming. So let me ask you about, obviously, we just talked about who can challenge Oklahoma, and everybody seems to agree UCLA is the team that everybody believes could be the biggest threat to Oklahoma. What is your thoughts about the Bruins? One of our chat people actually wanted us to ask about Tinsley, their young new player that's going to be added to UCLA. They've added Brooke Giannis in the transfer portal, Mionio and Palacios, of course, not mentioning all the players returning like Megan Faremo and company. Your thoughts on the Bruins in 2023, Jenna?
There's definitely some more Bruin in LA this season. Had to do it. No, but I think you hit on something important, which is the transfer portal. You mentioned Oklahoma too. It's like they've also benefited from the transfer portal. Like Sid Sanders was Pac-12 Freshman of the Year last year with Arizona State, and now she's with Oklahoma. But UCLA has done the same. Like it's wild when you see these like Pac-12 rivals then start to become teammates. With, like you mentioned Mionio, you mentioned Palacios, who was just like a mainstay behind the plate for Arizona previously. And then, yes, you do have returners like Megan Faremo, et cetera. But Brooke Giannis, we didn't get to see her throw last year because she was hurt. So we didn't get to see the magic that she brings and that she brought to Oregon. But like we will get to see that now in addition to Megan Faremo. So it's like imagine them having a lot of the weapons that they had already, plus they have extra now, like extra ammo and then some solid underclassmen as well coming in. So yes. I mean, I think it makes sense. You saw the coaches poll come out. It's no surprise Oklahoma was like the only consistent thing at the top of all the preseason polls, I think, because a lot of the other parts were pretty different, actually. But UCLA in that number 2 spot, I think, makes total sense for good reason.
How about the offense for the Bruins? How does that look for them? And from that perspective, I mean, they get some players back. Aaliyah Jordan will be back, I think, 7th year. Is the hope there? Like, what's the thoughts on the Bruins offense?
Well, that's a huge advantage to having that back, because also when I've talked to Coach Kelly Inouye Perez as well, like, it's not just Aaliyah Jordan's, her actual results that she gets on the field. There's also a huge leadership aspect there too. And she talked about how, she'd be like the first one cheering in the dugout, even when she wasn't able to play with her injury, at the front of the dugout, congratulating everybody first if something good happened in the game. And I think you can do that no matter what, but when you're actually playing in a part of the game, that gets turned up a notch even more so. So to have her back, I think is a big deal. But then I think when you have someone like Mayonio, for example, that brings speed also to the Bruins lineup, which I think is going to be beneficial for them. So I think they have some weapons, and you throw in Palacios as well, who's got some power from the right side. Like, that's again just going to give them more to work with.
Justin, go ahead and ask Jenna a question in the Pac-12.
Okay, well, let's go Stanford. I mean, that's your happy place, I feel like. Anyway, so let's go Stanford.
Are you comfortable talking Stanford? Are you familiar with Stanford's program, Jen? I don't know. For some reason, Justin thinks you're very comfortable.
I guess. I don't know if you can.
That's it. She comes prepared, ladies and gentlemen.
I come prepared. No, I actually just a little bit ago emceed their first ever preseason barbecue with season ticket holders. And so got to chat with Coach Alistair, as well as the girls themselves, the student athletes, which was really awesome. That is something that, even if I was not an alum, people can believe me or not, whatever, but they are ones to watch this year. I mean, they were in every single preseason poll this year, and it's the first time in years that has been the case. And then you have Elena Vaughter in the circle, who was absolutely outstanding. Obviously for Stanford last year, but she's on preseason everything too, all Pac-12, all American, top 50 player of the year watch list, all of those things. But what you'll hear from Coach Alistair too, and that I've seen a little bit in watching fall ball and seeing their scrimmage today, is the freshmen that they have, in addition to every single starter from last year. That includes Reagan Krause in the circle as well, who also was very, very key in their win in Alabama in the Tuscaloosa Regional last year, as well as going back to back no-hitters with them and Molly Millar. Reagan Krause was a part of that as well. So to have them, then you have a freshman pitcher, Nija Kennedy from Kansas, who is the real deal. Like, she is going to be great for this Stanford team. They are a true 3-headed monster in the circle. So when you add that in, plus there's actually quite a bit of talent with that freshman class in terms of just hitting ability, speed, a lot of infielders. And so I think it was a top 10 recruiting class, and Coach Alistair was very, very excited about it. So talk about having everything back plus more. Stanford's definitely in that category too.
How does this, you talked about the polls, you talked about Vaughter being on all the lists and all that kind of stuff. This is the first time, at least since Jessica Alistair's been back, that Stanford has had this level of expectation. Honestly, a level of pressure.
Yeah.
How do they handle that?
I think the key to Coach Alistair's success, and this goes for when she played, when she was an assistant coach, now when she's a head coach, she's very, very good at being where her feet are. Like, just being in the present. Like, if I try to ask her about things later on in the season, she's like, you know what, JB, we're focused on playing LMU on Thursday, February 9th. That is the first game that is coming up. That is, I think, what's key for them, and how they've been able to kind of have that upward trajectory every single year. It's like her first year, they had more wins in Pac-12 than they had in the previous 4 years. Then they beat that drought, and they go to postseason in 2019 for the first time in 6 years. Then all of a sudden they're in the regional final in Arkansas in 2021. And then last year they actually make it to supers and host and break Alabama's postseason streak. So if the trajectory continues, it's like, well, now there's pressure to get to Oklahoma City, which is something that Coach Alistair did herself as a player twice. Both times that Stanford went, she was a part of it. And so I think for them, though, it's very, very much just staying present. She talks a lot about, like, take confidence from some of the preseason polls that have come out, but don't let it control anything. Like, it also, at the end of the day, doesn't matter when it comes to you competing on the field. We have gotten this far by doing it like this, by staying super focused on the present, and they will continue to do that.
With all the talk, Jenna, about UCLA and Stanford, and rightfully so, it kind of feels like we're putting Arizona on the back burner with what Caitlin Lowe did, given where they were 2 months left in the season, dead last of the conference to make it to Oklahoma City. What do you think is the outlook for the Wildcats with season 2 with her under the helm, especially after that run they made to Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I mean, you can't understate how impressive it is for a first-year head coach, no matter how long she was a part of the coaching staff before that, to make it to Oklahoma City the way that she did. And while UCLA certainly has gained people like Mayonio and Palacios, obviously Arizona has lost those threats on their end through the transfer portal. But I think like what we have seen is really a cultural thing with Arizona. They're just really tough. Like, the bear down thing for Arizona is a real thing. And I think that we saw that when it mattered the most. I think they have that sort of mentality in Tucson that comes from her. And I've said it before with you all because it's so true. Like, that staff is second to none. When you have an Olympian like Lauren Lappin, she's also a Stanford alum, but just has a lot of coaching experience as well with the Chicago Bandits. And then also, of course, Taryn Mowat, who knows exactly what it is to pitch the Wildcats to victory. Like, they have that leadership there. So you can't count them out. We learned that last year. People did, right? But you never can.
Yeah, I agree. And Lucas Valencia is a diehard Arizona fan who says Arizona will finish second in the Pac-12. Now, Lucas has been on my case because I've not had Caitlin on the show yet. So I want to address Lucas real quick. Caitlin Lowe has a very busy schedule. We've not been able to have the schedules on. There are certain priorities she has to take. For example, she just did a media day and had a podcast interview with Kenzie Fowler. I don't know why Kenzie Fowler gets priority. I can't think of the reason.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
I don't know. I know, Wildcat, shout out to Kenzie. Justin flew all the way to Tucson to talk to Caitlin Lowe. Talk about, I don't have that commitment or budget that Justin McLeod does. That's why he's able to deal. That's why he deal. So I'm curious, Justin, your thoughts on it, because you did talk to Lowe and you got to see Arizona back in the fall.
I mean, sure. Do I have questions? Sure. But I think what Jenna said is the perfect thing. They're tough. You just can't count them out. You count them out, and next thing you know, they go to the freaking World Series. Like, that's just their way. I mean, sure. Do they have pitching depth? I don't know. I watched them in 4 foul ball games. Still couldn't tell you. I'm not sure they know, to be honest with you. You've got 4 newcomers. But at the same time, it's Arizona. We saw what they did last year. You had an ace with injuries galore. You had not a ton of depth behind her. And again, they end up in the World Series. It's like, I've learned not to doubt Arizona. I used to say I learned not to doubt Mike Candrea. No, it's just Arizona.
Arizona in general? Yeah. Well, we'll see what the pitching does. What can Taryn Mowat do with that staff as well? I hope to catch up with Coach Lowe in person in Clearwater. Just for you, Lucas. That's the commitment that I have for you, my friend. By the way, a lot of Stanford bandwagon Jenna talk here on the chat room. So you're not alone. You're not alone. Cheyenne Roller, you got Michelle Carlin. They're all I am on the Cardinal bandwagon. We had Jessica Allister on. The most excited, Justin, too. Most excited, most confident I've heard Jessica. We've had her on for years. It's the most confident I've heard her talk about her team really since she has arrived at Stanford. So there's a lot of buzz, and I think if they take that next step, offensively, they can get to challenge the OKC. And then another team I think to watch is Oregon. Coach Lombardi really likes this group. Can they be healthy? That's been their issue, Jenna. Your thoughts on the Ducks?
Yep. I think injuries was tough. I mean, we talked about it. They didn't have Brooke Yanez, right? And she was sort of the heart and soul of their team. They're not going to have her this year either because she'll be with UCLA. But I think it's another team that is pretty tough as well. And when you talk about the Pac-12 as a whole, too, we're talking about how Arizona was in last place and then they end up going to the World Series. That speaks to the strength of the conference. So the thing about Oregon is that they are extremely battle tested, and they are every year coming out of conference and going into conference. So again, it's like you just can't say that they're not some sort of threat in the conference and that they won't make or aren't able to make some sort of postseason run. I think Melissa Lombardi has definitely established a culture there in the last several seasons since she's been there, of them just continuing to push forward. Kind of one thing she talked about a lot last season was that they became very good at being able to flush any mistakes, because no one's perfect. Things are going to happen, but they're able to kind of just flush it and then move on and have that sort of resiliency. And I think that's been a key trait for them and will continue to be and need to be in 2023.
No doubt about that. Megan Bartlett takes over at Arizona State, brand new team, basically. Your thoughts on what Megan's in store for there in Arizona State?
You know, I've been impressed with what she's been able to do in such a short amount of time. I mean, you have a team that, in my opinion, Arizona State Northwestern, that super regional last year was one of the best super regionals we've ever seen. Like, it was just a top tier super regional. What makes super regionals so fun to watch? And Trisha Ford had a great run at Arizona State. And then you lose people like Sid Sanders, right? And these people that had such a big part of that success at Arizona State. But her establishing that staff, you're able to keep Jimmy Kalaitis, who is a big part of like the offensive success that Arizona State has had. Those things I think are important. And it's interesting because you'll see in some of the national polls that Arizona State's ranked, but then they're picked last in the Pac-12 for 2023. And that's because it's a rebuilding. You have to rebuild when these things happen. But it's like, again, that shows the strength of the conference and her ability and people's faith in her actually to lead this program.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time there. I want to mention a couple other storylines in the Pac-12. Oregon State got that magical run to the World Series with Laura Burr and company. No Mariah Maison, but they do return a nice nucleus from that team. But obviously, Maison's a huge loss. You know that as well as anyone seen him up close with the Beavers as far as that's concerned. And then, oh, by the way, Washington. Oh, by the way, no Gabby playing. She graduates, but Heather Tarr obviously feels good about the nucleus she has back, especially offensively. You got one of the best players in the country, the reigning Pac-12 Player of the Year in Klingler. Your thoughts on those two teams?
Yeah, Washington is another team that they'll sneak up on you if you let them. Like, you have to keep an eye on them and pay attention to them. Another team that has also benefited from the transfer portal, though, Lindsay Lopez from ASU, the lefty pitcher. ASU's loss was Washington's gain in that regard. And Klingler won Pac-12 Player of the Year, I think rightfully so, last year, because she is just a threat at the plate. She always is. And I think with Washington, there's a cultural aspect there too of them just being, they just kind of never stop. They just keep coming at you no matter what. There's no let up really from the Dogs. So for them, I think it's going to be really interesting to see. And if you look at the Pac-12 coaches poll, they're the only ones who got another first place vote, right? So it's like, that means Coach Kelly I voted for Washington in terms of being in that first place slot, because you're not allowed to vote for yourself. So, you know, when someone like that has a level of faith like that as well, I think you have to pay attention to it. And that's why I think I tend to look at the coaching polls a little more closely, because I don't think rankings determine things, but I think they know more and they're sort of like in the weeds with everything a little bit more and able to make those, insights.
Go and your thoughts on the Beavers without Maison.
It's tough. You know, it's one of those things where if I'm an Oregon State fan or affiliated with their program, I'd be a little frustrated because I'm like, oh, nobody truly gave her the spotlight that she needed through most of her career until the end. And now that she's gone, now we're saying that, that's such a big loss to Oregon State that we're not going to rank them as high in the preseason rankings. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. So that's kind of like, well, you can't have it both ways, you know? But I think they still have some great. Frankie Hamoudi's coming back. Talk about an offensive threat. Sarah Hendiges was a big piece and a compliment to Mariah Maison also last year, and she was a big part of how they got to Oklahoma City. She did a great job in the Stanford Regional to help them. It wasn't just Mariah, you know, and while her leadership was huge, no doubt, and she's already done well in the pro circuits with Athletes Unlimited, et cetera. Again, it's like a team. And you talk about like the leadership that there is makes such a big difference from the top down. And I've mentioned some of the staffs and all that, but Laura Berg is literally one of the best. She is the most decorated USA softball player ever. You understand what it is to compete. And there is just something about that is inspiring for the team, especially when those greats are able to translate that so well into their coaching repertoire. Like that is something that not everybody can do, but Laura Berg does it extremely well.
Vic,
One
go
thing I
ahead.
want to ask Jenna in terms of the Pac-12 is we kind of had you on last year when we learned that this year the Pac-12 tournament would be coming back into play, be hosted at Hillenbrand Stadium. How do you think the Pac-12 tournament can help those teams, especially last year when we had JT Gasso on the podcast and how he mentioned that if Utah had won that series, they would be the ones in the NCAA tournament, not Oregon State. So how would a Pac-12 tournament really help those teams that are on the bubble trying to get themselves into the field of 64?
Yeah, Cal and Utah both just missed that postseason opportunity last year and probably would have made some noise. Utah likes to be annoying to people in a good way, meaning like they like to compete. They don't make it easy. Like they are very, very scrappy. And I remember bringing that term up to Coach Hogue at one point. And she's like, I used to hate that. I didn't like when people would just call us scrappy because I feel like we're more than that. But if scrappy means to always be coming at you and like never quitting, then yeah, I'll take that. I will take that label for our culture, for this team and this program. So I think the tournament's going to be huge. Most of the coaches I've talked to are extremely excited about it. And I think it's for a few reasons. Like there's an exposure element to it that, before the selection show, like we haven't had as much insight into Pac-12 the way that you do when you watch the SEC tournament or the ACC tournament, and you get to see some of these teams on a higher level and in a postseason type environment. That hasn't existed for the Pac-12. So I think that'll be good for teams to also make a run. And because it's more of a postseason format, I think that creates momentum. I think it creates momentum through the exposure, but also like it could be a little anticlimactic, like it could be, let's say, between UCLA and ASU last year or whenever, who's going to win the Pac-12, and they might be in total different places playing that last weekend, and then someone loses and okay, now we know who the champion is. And it's just not quite the same, but this is that like championship feel that I think can only put the teams in a better mental space and also just like help the narrative and from a marketing perspective for the conference as a whole. So I think it's going to be absolutely huge. I'm very, very excited about it.
You going? You going to go?
I think that's the plan, TBD, but yes, most likely.
Fowler's the host. She could get you some dinner. Like you both had a great episode on your show when you had Fowler on, which is one of my favorite episodes that you've done in your first 3 seasons. Because you two just don't shy away from your comments. She's not one that's going to shy away from comments, especially when you got into pitching. So I think it'd be only cool if you two hung out and maybe, who knows, do a remote show from there. But she's hosting, so she should invite you. And we're not, get Fowler, bring Jenna to Tucson. That would be can we do a hashtag, Victor? Can we do a hashtag?
Hold on. Give me 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds. I can do that.
And I have not been actually to the stadium since they redid it.
Ooh.
I have not been to Rita since then. So I mean, even just for that reason, would love to see it.
How did I beat you to the new Rita?
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our new hashtag, our new objective, get Jenna to Rita. Go ahead and please tweet it. Let's make this happen. And we need to have you and Kenzie do a podcast at Rita for the Pac-12 tournament.
Either a podcast, a broadcast,
both.
Whatever. All the above. Maybe we'll get you both on. How about this? You get to Tucson, we'll get you both on the show here to preview Pac-12.
All right. You guys are the boss of me, apparently. So yes, I will do.
Whoa, wait. Who doubted made me the law over you?
That's me. We'll see how that goes. You two are fantastic. Justin, you're gonna follow up there with a question.
I have to follow that.
Yeah. You've been the one that's been to Tucson, so you can.
No, but okay, Jenna, I'm curious. I want somebody who's inside the Pac-12 because you know me. I have plenty of thoughts on things, but I'm curious for somebody who's inside the Pac-12. So last year, you get 7 teams in the tournament. You Arizona, whatever portion they came in, Oregon State sneaks in, Cal and Utah are just outside looking in. You get 3 to the World Series, couple of the ones who, Arizona, Oregon State on the lower end. I'm curious, when you look at the Pac-12 as a whole this year, do you see the conference in a position of overall absolute strength? Do you see the conference strong in some areas, maybe weak in others? Where do you think the conference falls on that scale at this point this year?
I think overall the conference feels confident. And I think they earned that confidence from last season. And it's really easy to point to the postseason because of all the things you just said. Wow, look at the runs that these teams did. Almost half of the teams in the World Series were Pac-12 teams. But really, that all started much earlier in the season. Like, again, it's like how battle tested they were, all beating each other up throughout the regular season was really key. I think with the Pac-12 in particular, though, like I said, you'll see certain things where, let's say in these preseason polls, maybe Oregon State's not ranked in some of them after going to the World Series last year, even though they lost Mariah, et cetera. And so there's still a little bit of a chip on the shoulder for some of these coaches, but it's a good thing, I think. Like, I think it's only in a way that's going to help them moving forward. Like, I think they take it as just like maybe a little extra motivation, or they're not worried about it necessarily, but it is something where they're like, okay, yeah, we'll show you what we can do again. We'll just keep doing it. If you need us to remind you again, we already did it last year, but we'll do it again if we have to.
All right, we'll let you go on this. Are you making your World Series picks on your show, your debut show, the season premiere?
I was not.
Do you want to do it
planning
here?
on it.
Do you want to do it here?
I was told to be ready. So.
Oh, there you go. Are you ready? Are you ready to make your World Series picks?
I think so. I'll say this too. Like, I think you all know this too. And I've talked to all of you about this. I'm not big on polls and rankings and preseason awards and all of that stuff, because I think, especially before anything is played in a season, because it's one of those things where teams are different every year and players can change from year to year. And so it's just really hard, but it's fun for us in these circumstances to talk about this, obviously. But when it comes to, like if I'm one of the competitors in these teams that are competing, you cannot get caught up in that. But we'll let ourselves get caught up in it. I think for me, Oklahoma's easy, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like they're just like an autofill at this point for that. UCLA, we talked about earlier for all the reasons we mentioned too. Like, they're just really strong. And then beyond that, I think it does start in the circle, right? And I think that's where, if you do look at a lot of the coaches polls, and like I mentioned, I think the coaches they know the programs within their conferences really well. So I think the conference polls are always super interesting. But so, like, for example, you have Oklahoma State, who also made it really deep last year. And they're the only other ones. That's who Oklahoma voted for, right? In their preseason poll, that's who Patty Gasso thinks would have been first if you can't choose Oklahoma. So there's those two. With UCLA, I will say, I do think, and this is maybe a bit bold, or maybe people used to think it was bold, but I do think Stanford has a chance to make it to the World Series this year. Like, they've only have more this season than last year. They only have more. Elena Vodder's back. Again, Reagan Krause is back. Nija Kennedy is going to be huge. And they have some more bats in the lineup too. So I think they can definitely make a run for it to go to Oklahoma City. Beyond that, I think because things do start in the circle, I think you have to look at Northwestern too. I said it was one of the best super regionals I've ever seen last year, but the fact that Danielle Williams is coming back, she literally put the team on her back, could do it again. I mean, you always graduate some people, but I think she puts them in a position in that, coming from the Big Ten, to make a run for it as well. And then, when you look at Florida being picked as well for the SEC to take the conference, I think they're a strong choice also to make it back to Oklahoma City. And how many am I at right now? Is that 6?
That is 6. Got 2
that's
more.
6. But with that said, I think you also have to look at the ACC, because Florida State is also a contender. And I think they sort of always will be. I feel like they are very symbolic of the rise of ACC softball, which has been huge in the last several years, even having programs at all at Clemson and Duke, but also the success that they've been able to have, even winning some conference championships since then. And then Florida State having that sort of first ACC national championship in 2018, like that really, I think, set the tone for just improvement year in and year out with that conference. And I think them, even with the ACC Network, that sort of exposure helps, and it helps with recruiting. Then the more you see as a young one, the more you want to be a part of it, And then there's like Virginia Tech as well in that conference. So they're very competitive too. So I think Florida State would be the other ones, so Florida and Florida State, which would always be fun to see on a World Series stage. And then this last slot is a little bit tough, I think, for me, just because there are so many teams that I could list right now for us to keep an eye on. Like Eric, I could easily say, keep an eye on UCF after what they did last year, right? I could easily say that. We could talk about Texas after what they did last year. We could talk about, like I mentioned Clemson, but we could put them in this conversation as well. We could talk about Arkansas. I have a lot of respect for what Coach Deifel's been doing with that program. So it's really, really tough. But I think, you have to leave room for some magic, right? Like that does seem to happen every single year. So with that being said, Eric, you'll love this. I think I'm going to say UCF.
Let's go. Listen, that happens. I'm buying you dinner at OKC. All right, down pat. Justin will have to show us around. Justin's the mayor of Oklahoma City, if you haven't noticed, Jenna. Wow.
Yes.
I like it. Jenna, I love it. Awesome. Well, now it's official. You're my favorite podcast host.
Perfect. I thought I already had that.
Justin, Justin's trying to make
I stole it from you. I stole it from you for 3 days.
Not in my
okay.
case.
Okay.
Right.
I let you borrow it. It's fine.
That's exactly.
All right, Jenna, you've been awesome as always. Enjoyed talking to you. Tell the audience one more time where they can find about the podcast and the season premiere and much more.
Yes. So season premiere is next week, or this coming week, rather, on February 9th. So same day as opening day for D1 softball. And it is Bleav in Softball, spelled BLEAV, with Bleav Network. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bleav in Softball. And it's on all the big podcast platforms, including YouTube. And we got some exciting stuff coming up this season. So join us there.
Jenna, you have a great ready to start the season. We'll get you on during the season as we always do. We always love having you and Kenzie Fowler on the podcast during the season to talk Pac-12 softball. You're our both our go-tos. So enjoy the season. It's going to be fun. The best time. Thanks for always taking the time in your busy schedule to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a blast. The day that I am no longer the favorite, though, we may have to reevaluate. But until then.
I think you got that spot, pretty good spot there. You're good. Justin's got a lot of work to do.
That's
and that includes his own rankings too.
It's very true. Very true.
All right, Jenna, thank you very much. Jenna Becerra with her picks. I love those picks. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a fan of those picks.
Wow, that's
bold, huh?
That's pretty bold there.
Why you are. I can't imagine.
I know. I don't know.
Well, Jenna mentioned Florida State, Victor.
She did.
Didn't she?
She did. And guess who we happen to have? Someone who knows a thing or two about not only playing for Florida State, but playing for Florida State in Oklahoma City. And joining us now, our good friend from the ACC Network and someone who knows a thing or two about playing and pitching for the Garnet and Gold of Florida State, our good friend Caylan Arnold joining us. Caylan, thanks for joining us. How are you this Saturday evening?
I am so good. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, you heard what Jenna had to say a little bit about Florida State. A lot of high expectations for your Seminoles and Coach what she's got going on. Just what's kind of been the vibe of being around the program and those expectations, especially after our last year ended a lot earlier than a lot of Florida State fans anticipated.
Right. Yeah. Last year was a bit of a shock considering the caliber of team, that we had last year. As a Florida State alumni, I was very proud of that team. I'm still very proud of that team. But, anything can happen this season softball. So as we saw, Mississippi State came out and, they were playing and they were trying to continue their season. And that's what they did. And but the program this year, I'm really, really excited about what the team has going on this year. They have so many people return. They have Catherine Sandercock returning, Devin Flaherty, Josie Muffley, Michaela Edenfield behind the plate, Kaylee Harding, the list goes on and on. So many talented players returning. And I'm really excited about the pitching staff that they have this year. They're bringing on Allie Dubois, who had to redshirt last year from Boston. Some really, really good freshmen. And I'm super excited about what they got going on.
What this offense? I talked to Lonnie recently. She's excited about this offense because Caylan, as you know, over the last few years, the offense there's always been some pieces to replace and things, but they've got the nucleus back. I know they lose Cindy Sherrill, but she's excited about this nucleus offensively, and really, she's more worried about trying to fill the holes behind Catherine Sandercock. Pitching now, that's a pitching coach mindset, always worried about the pitching. So let's take that. But talk about this offense for the Seminoles because this is the core now for that's been together for a little bit.
Right. I mean, bringing back some really awesome hitters like McLeod, she's going to be phenomenal like she was last year. Michaela Edenfield, who was just a freshman last year, coming out and hitting home runs like she did. Kaylee Mudge, who was in leadoff, who is always pretty consistent. Devin Flaherty, who is always consistent. She's, not one who's going to really come out with the power, but she gets the base hits, she gets on base, and when she gets on base, she steals bases, which is awesome. So I mean, Kaylee Harding, who has the power numbers, it's super exciting to see, kind of how the offense has shifted from when I was there. When I was there, it was really more, how do we scratch a run? How do we get on base? We're playing short game. We're just getting hits here and there. We weren't known to be a powerful team, and we weren't known to be producing a lot of runs. And now I think that team has done a complete 180, and I think it's going to be a very power-heavy offense.
Give me your thoughts on the rest of the ACC there. You got Clemson, who made it to the Supers. They bring back Valerie Cagle and Thompson. They're 1-2 punch pitching-wise for the Tigers. John Rittman hosted for the first time, got to Supers. Duke loses a lot of personnel, but they bring back, you have young talent. Virginia Tech loses Keely Richard, so they begin life without Keely Richard. So they got to depend on Nenley. They got their offensive core back. Your thoughts on those three teams in particular that were national seeds last year and hosted?
Right. I mean, bringing back Valerie Cagle is a huge deal. She is a true leader for that team for Clemson. And I really think, last year with her batting average and with her ERA, her batting average was over 300. Her ERA was below 2. It's pretty insane to be able to do both. So I'm really excited about Clemson. I think they're going to be great. Duke. I actually am really excited about Duke. I think Duke is going to be really awesome. And, they were able to bring on Sydney Romero as an assistant coach who doesn't want to learn softball from one of the Romero sisters. So the girls getting to work with her, I think is really, really great. Virginia Tech is going to be interesting, I think, because they don't have Keely Richard, and Keely was such a workhorse for that team. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but they are bringing back some really great players like Emma Lemley, who pitched a lot for them last year and did really well. Struggled a little bit with the crow hopping, but I think that that's something that she's really focused on in this off season. So I'm looking forward to see how she's able to come out. And also Emma Ritter, who was amazing for them, hitting, all ACC first team, batting average 400. 661 slugging percentage. So I think that Virginia Tech, it's really going to kind of depend on, these young players in the circle and how they're going to be able to kind of fill in Keely Richard's shoes.
Caylan, you kind of mentioned with Virginia Tech and you replacing an ace like Richard, it's never easy to do. How do you think Virginia Tech can kind of handle that with not only the offense that they have, but kind of like Florida State with the season ending a lot earlier than anticipated? Not just not the fact that it ended in Supers, but how it ended, just getting dominated by Florida in that decisive game 3.
Right. So I think, Virginia Tech did rely heavily on Richard. Lemley was very young, but she really held her own in several series. And I think that she was able to learn from Richard. She saw what she was able to do. She had her as a mentor, and hopefully, she was able to learn how to kind of take over that spot, how to take over that role. And she's going to come out and be dominant just like Richard was. I think that Lemley totally has the potential to be able to do that. She's got the stuff. She shut down several very, very talented teams last season. So I think she's going to be really, really good, but it's going to depend on, is she going to be able to step up and kind of fill the role of Keely? Was she able to learn enough from her in the time that they spent together? But I think that Virginia Tech is ready. I think that so many other ACC teams like Clemson, like Duke, like Notre Dame are ready to get further in the postseason. And I think that with every year that goes by, they get better and better. And I'm really excited about it. And I personally, when we get to my World Series picks, I think that we're going to see a second ACC team in the World Series.
Ooh, there you go. Now, Justin's got a question for you.
Okay.
But before we get to Justin, I want to point out, Caylan, that you were, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a finalist. You were a nominee finalist this year of the Golden Mics on Extra Innings for your, as a break. What was the category, Justin?
You got to put me on the spot. You know how many months ago that was? I believe it was Breakout Star.
Breakout Star.
I believe it was. It was like newcomer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you that, because what was it like for you? Did you enjoy that first year, and then kind of what are you looking forward to from a broadcast standpoint this upcoming season?
Absolutely love it. I knew that as a player, I always really enjoyed talking to the media while everyone else never wanted to talk to the media. I love talking about softball. I can talk about softball all day long until you stop me. And I love being creative. And last season, I got to talk about what I love with the people that I love and be creative while doing it. And it was absolutely fantastic. And it's something that obviously I would love to pursue and do full time. It's just all about, getting hired eventually after I have, a few more years of experience based off of the feedback that I got. But I was so honored to get that nomination, and I love hearing people's feedback. I've gotten a lot of really, really positive feedback, and I'm so thankful for everybody who has reached out to me and told me that they love hearing me on air and love hearing me talk about softball.
Yeah, I'm also nominated Best Local Analyst, doing the games there at FSU. Are you coming back second year?
I am. So I am going to be doing a couple games for FSU, and then, just a couple other games here and there for some other places as well. And I'm super excited. But FSU obviously is my home. I love it. I love going back. Always go back, and I get to stay with Coach, which is great because I get a little bit of a backside, story, a little bit of extra details that I can kind of throw into the mix the next day that a lot of other people don't get. So it's wonderful.
That's pretty good, huh? And I heard a lot other places. Let us know when you reveal that, when you're allowed to reveal that. That's now I'm intrigued.
I will, for sure. For sure. I'm super excited. Still waiting to hear back on a few things.
Okay.
Really hoping that it falls through for me. But if it does, it's going to be a really, really fun experience.
All right. Well, now Justin's going to bug you after this and just kind of keep you in the loop. It's to keep him in the loop on their other landing spots. But in the meantime, for now, he'll settle for a question. So go ahead, Justin.
Okay. I did have to step out. Have we talked Clemson yet?
Just briefly.
Okay.
Just briefly, yeah.
Okay. I'm curious, you've got Valerie Cagle, but you've got Millie Thompson. And
Right.
Millie Thompson kind of emerges last year, and it becomes a bit of a 1-2 for Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Cagle she didn't take a step back, but she maybe wasn't the superstar. She was just a star,
Mm-hmm.
such a step back.
Yeah.
But how do you see that 1-2 evening out? Obviously, 1-2 in the circle is a big deal for a program in today's softball world. How big of a deal is it for Clemson?
I think it's going to be huge. It's so important in this day and age in softball to have more than just one pitcher. Honestly, to have more than two is even better. That's what we've got to have when we're competing against offenses like Oklahoma. You can't just have one because they can adjust so quickly. And so I think that Millie, emerging and becoming her own pitcher and really, really being successful is going to be a huge deal for Clemson. Valerie coming back and doing what she does best. I know, maybe Clemson coming in with some freshmen who might be able to take a little bit of, the heat off of them too, so that they can rest, so that they're ready to go for postseason is going to be a really big deal. And I think personally that they're going to be able to do it and they're going to kick butt.
Give me your thoughts on Notre Dame, Georgia Tech. You mentioned Notre Dame earlier. They were a team that were in the mix to host. And then Georgia Tech, Eileen Morales got them into the tournament for the first time. Your thoughts on those two teams?
Yeah, so Notre Dame, I think, they're coming back with a lot of players from last year. One of those being Karina Gaskins, 2022 ACC Player of the Year. I mean, 422 batting average, 13 home runs, 800 slugging percentage. Those numbers are insane. So I'm excited to see what she's able to come back and do. And like I said, just the strength of the ACC, it just continues to get better and better every single year. Georgia Tech, I think, they've got everything coming together. They got pitching coach Marty McDaniels, who I got to work with when I was at Tennessee. He's great. I know he's really got the pitchers going. Coach Morales has really started to turn that program into something special. They've got shortstop Jen Soleo coming back, and she's just phenomenal. She's like a vacuum with a glove. So I'm thinking that they're going to be a very competitive team in the ACC this year.
Kind of meant for Caylan how the ACC has risen the last several years from when we first saw you with Florida State. And Fang actually brought up an interesting question in our chat. Do you feel that the ACC is that number 3 conference in college softball right now behind the Pac-12 and the SEC?
That is hard. I do think that it's right. I think it's right there. I mean, there are the two powerhouses, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. But as a whole, I think that the ACC has become much more competitive, similar to the Pac-12 and the SEC when you're having to play teams like Clemson, like Duke, like Florida State, like Virginia Tech now. And it's becoming so much stronger. And I think now too, teams before looked at the ACC and they're like, okay, it's really just Florida State and that's all they got. But now it's like, oh dang, I really don't want to play Virginia Tech this weekend. I'm not looking forward to hitting against Valerie Cagle. And that speaks and that says a lot about what this conference has really turned into.
Give me your thoughts on the teams that didn't make the field, like a Louisville just missed. They were the first 4 out. Virginia, North Carolina, Coach Papa's been there a long time. NC State, among others. Give me of the other teams that didn't make the tournament. Is there a team you like as a sleeper?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, my top 5 that I have for the ACC are FSU, Duke, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and then I have FSU winning. Not biased. I just, I have them winning at the end, just based off of the caliber that they have coming back this year. But, I think that Louisville is always a tough competitor. I think, last year there were some surprising games, from several of the teams. But yeah, I think that I would probably say Louisville may come out and surprise some people.
Did I hear you got Duke number 2 there? I want you to expand on that. I know you like Coach Romero, but they lost some personnel. But you like what Coach Young there has built with the young talent, it sounds like.
I do. I like Duke. I think that I know that they lost some people, but I mean, they were, especially like when I played against them, they were such a tough component. And I think that that's their coaching staff just really drilling in, playing competitive softball and playing with grit. And I like Duke.
Okay.
I know they lost St. George, but I just have a feeling. I just have a gut feeling. I think that they're going to be something this year.
All right. Well, let's let you go on this. Give us your World Series picks. And I'm impressed. I feel like you've got charts, you've got notes there.
I do. I was coming in and prepared. I didn't want to be. That's how I am. I have to have something, to be prepared.
Welcome to the club. That's what we do all in the media here. Yeah, unfortunately, Just is in a different location. Otherwise, if you see his office, it's full of notes. It's just insane.
I'm sure.
So give me, who do you like this year to get to OKC?
Okay, this was tough. This was very tough for me. I had my first 5, but then my next 3 were, I had to do a lot of research. Oklahoma's number 1. Obviously, can't not put them at number 1. It's just ridiculous. Number 2, I got UCLA. I think that they're bringing back some phenomenal talent. I also think that they have brought in some phenomenal talent with the transfers that they got from Arizona, and Brooke Yanez, the pitcher from Oregon that transferred in. I think she's phenomenal. So I got UCLA. I got OSU. I have to, bringing back Kelly Maxwell, getting Lexi Kilfoyle is super excited to see how, they balance off of each other. I got Florida State, bringing back all the girls that I mentioned earlier. I think Catherine Sandercock is going to have a phenomenal 5th year. Really excited to see what they do. I have Florida. I think that, Florida really held their own last year. They're bringing back a lot of the same girls. So I do expect Florida to be there. I got Northwestern, which I think is super exciting, because I love when, those teams like what they did last year are able to make a name for themselves when most people aren't usually saying Northwestern is going to be at the World Series. And I'm super excited about that. And I really do hope that they end up there. 7 and 8 was really hard for me. So I have 4 possible options. One from the ACC and then one from the SEC. So I have either Clemson or Duke at the World Series. And then I also have Tennessee and Georgia. And I chose them because I think I've played Georgia so many times. They are always so difficult to play. They are so gritty. They got, some good transfers. They I believe Dallas Goodnight transferred there from Alabama. Also, they got Shelby Walters from Duke coming in as a pitcher. She had a great time at Duke. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I also said Tennessee because they have a lot of returning people like Zeta Pooney, who's a phenomenal hitter, Kiki Malloy. They're bringing back Ashley Rogers. And then because I live in this area, I know a lot about that team. And they have some pretty good pitchers, in my opinion, who are going to be joining the staff this year. So personally, I think I would like to see Tennessee Georgia Super Regional. That was what I had my sophomore year, was a Tennessee Georgia Super Regional.
Yeah, Tennessee's playing Super Regionals every year against an SEC team. When they get
I'm
to the
sure
Supers.
Karen Wheatley will be happy with that news. Yeah, another SEC team I gotta see in the Supers. Come on, man.
Basically, I know I played SEC teams every single year of Super Regionals. So all 4 of my playing years, they were all against SEC teams. So I couldn't get away. But those are my picks. That's what I think is going to happen. So hopefully I'm pretty close.
Wow. Wait, so you live in Tennessee?
I do. I live in Knoxville.
Wow, Knoxville, Tennessee. I should have known that. Justin, Justin, you're in Tennessee now. You're a Tennessee guy.
I don't know how you didn't know Caylan was there. Even I knew Caylan was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because I see her doing FSU games. I just assume maybe she moved to Tallahassee or something. I never know. That's a commitment to travel. That's good.
It is. But like I said, I love going back. Any opportunity that I get to go back, I'm going to go back. So
smart. Well, we enjoyed having you on, and we enjoy listening to you on broadcast. We definitely want to get you back on during the season, talk more in depth, and once the ACC gets rolling, and your thoughts on the season there. But hey, in the meantime, tell the audience where they can find you and keep up with you.
Yeah, so my Instagram, you can keep up with me. I'm constantly posting on my Instagram. It's Caylan12 or Caylan Arnold 12. I'm getting more on TikTok, so that's been a lot of fun. So I am actually going to be posting softball updates, college softball updates, as much as I possibly can all throughout the season. On my TikTok, I'm going to be doing videos talking about, different takes on different things that are going on. So if you'd like to keep up with that, you can follow me on TikTok as well. And then pretty much those two places are where I'm most active. Obviously, you can watch me doing some FSU softball games. Oh, and I'm playing with the Florida Vibe this summer. So if you are, yeah. So I signed a contract with the Vibe. I'm super excited about that. So if you're in Bradenton, Florida area, Tampa area, we'll be playing down there. I'll also be playing, a few games in Nashville against Team Canada. We don't have our full schedule yet, but we are going to be playing June 30th and July 1st in Nashville against the national team. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's where you can pretty much keep up with me.
Nice, a little scoop there at the end. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's cool. Caylan, thank you so much for coming on. We're excited for that news. Now, me and Victor are gonna have to make some plans now. With the Vibe,
Yeah, for
Victor.
sure.
Brother, got enough plans as it is. I need it. That's going to be just an addition to everything else.
I know,
So,
right?
Yeah,
Down the
for
summer.
sure.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Enjoy it, and we look forward to hearing you this year. And we'll definitely get you on during the season back on the show.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I had a great time, and I look forward to talking with you again.
Awesome. Kalyn Arnold joining us for her thoughts on the ACC and the National. Some interesting picks there, gentlemen.
Yes.
Well, let's pick up.
Interesting indeed.
Let's pick up where she left off there with the last talking about Georgia, Tennessee, and the SEC there with Florida. Because, gentlemen, I think the SEC is the most wide open race of all the Power 5 conferences. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Absolutely. Because you got Arkansas, who won the SEC regular season, second straight year, won the tournament title, and they're hosting the tournament again this year. Another loaded roster. They added Christina. You talk about transfers from Duke. That Caylan mentioned Christina Foreman coming from Duke over to Arkansas. Can I just say it's going to be weird watching Arkansas play in 2023 and not see number 7 Mary Have in a circle. It felt like ever since we started this podcast, we've been talking about Mary Have. But now Shanice Delce is going to be coming in and she's going to pick up the mantle with Mary Have. And I think she kind of did that towards the back end of last year, really taking over to being that number 1, at least that 1A option for Mary Have. And now she's going to be the clear undisputed ace. But she's got a heck of an offense behind her, led by Hannah Gamble, Christina Foreman adding on. Tim Walton in Florida. Eric and I will never count out Tim Walton in Florida. As long as we're talking softball, we will never do that. I think Tennessee, as crazy as she mentioned Tennessee, if Peyton Goodshaw, the transfer from Bowling Green, MAC Pitcher of the Year, if she can complement Ashley Rogers and if Rogers can stay healthy, that might be the best 1-2 combination in terms of pitching in the SEC. I firmly believe that.
I feel like Tennessee, that's been the story the last couple of years. If Ashley Rogers is
Mhm.
healthy, right?
Exactly. We've been saying that for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Justin, your thoughts on the SEC?
Let's be honest. Ashley Rogers is not healthy. We know she's not healthy. She's not 100%. She's not going to be 100%. So it's not if Ashley Rogers is healthy. It really should be if Ashley Rogers is managed the right way, if she's used in the right positions, in the right place, in the right role. And to your point, Vic, Peyton Gottschall is used to shouldering such a load at Bowling Green. Granted, yes, okay, it's Bowling Green. I get it. Different shade of orange, different conference, all that kind of thing. But she's still used to shouldering a solid load. We're talking 200 some odd innings every year. She's an innings eater. She's a lot of strikeouts. She's just used to doing the work. That's what Tennessee needs. Aaron Edmondson kind of had to do that some for Tennessee last year, and that was a little more unexpected because of Rogers' health and the learning to manage it. Now they have learned how to manage it. So now the execution is kind of a little more set for him, but you've got Gottschall who's used to shouldering so much of that load where she can kind of pick up behind Rogers from the beginning. That can be the plan. So to me, that's a huge benefit for Tennessee. Yeah, would you like to have 100% healthy Ashley Rogers? Absolutely. Everybody in the world would like to have 100% healthy Ashley Rogers. Well, except for offenses who have to play against her. But outside of them. But that's not going to happen. But so I think Tennessee actually did a really nice job of filling the hole they needed to fill, which was somebody who can be relied on, who can eat the innings, who can be effective when Rogers is not full go. And for the SEC, it's absolutely a wide open race. And I'll say this, nobody in the SEC is as good as people think they are. They're not. Arkansas's not as good. Alabama's not nearly as good. Even Tennessee's not as good. Florida's not. Nobody in the SEC is as good as people think they are, and some are way, way worse than people think they are. So the SEC is a wide open race to the fullest. I don't think it's close to any other conference in terms of the wide openness of it.
How many teams can win the conference?
I can give you any one of 8.
That's a great number.
Justin, can I give you a team that I think might be one of those 8? You can tell me if I'm wrong on this one. I think Ole Miss could be a dark horse to be a top 4 team in the SEC this year.
Okay, so maybe 9.
Oh! As Eric has himself on mute for the second time on his live show.
Yeah, because I'm clapping and laughing. That's why I was muting myself. That was on purpose.
So let's see. Okay, so let's see. We got Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU. Who are the other 2?
Well, I never count out of Rachel Lawson's Kentucky.
You can't. Never.
Missouri is my number 8.
Oh, Mizzou.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Georgia. There's a lot of buzz about Georgia. Arguably, maybe the best offense returning in the SEC. They've added Walters, Duke, pitcher, and the staff. Not to give it away, we have Amanda Scarborough, Cheap Plug, coming in Sunday night on the YouTube channel, Monday on our podcast feed. Let's just say she likes Georgia. I'm not giving away a secret because she was on your debut episode from the Cheap Seats, and she talked about Georgia. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on the Dogs, on the hype? A lot of buzz in year 2 of Tony Baldwin in Georgia.
They're overhyped. I'll start there.
You're making lots of friends this evening, Mr. McLeod.
Well, I told you, though, everybody in the SEC is overhyped. Georgia, to me, I'm not as high on Georgia as Amanda is. I'm not as high on Georgia as some others are nationally. For me, the biggest thing is the pitching. They do have some offensive talent there. Sarah Mosley honestly could make a run for SEC Player of the Year. Sydney Kuma, Jada Kearney, Jaden Fields, you add Dallas Goodnight. So they've got some offensive pieces that are worth something. They are solid offensive pieces. Their pitching flat sucked last year. I'm not even going to mince words. Their pitching flat sucked. I feel for Madison Kerpix because she went out there and she put that team on her shoulders and she did the best she could. But they put Kerpix in situations. She was the de facto ace, but they put her in situations because they had to. And sure, she delivered sometimes, but she didn't deserve to have to be in all the spots she was in. But their pitching was just not good last year. Shelby Walters comes in. Shelby Walters is a solid pitcher. She missed last year with injury. She goes from the ACC and Duke in a strong conference, a conference gaining strength, to an SEC, which is an unforgiving league even at its weakest. And so she's coming off an injury. She's going from the ACC and Duke to Georgia and the SEC. I don't know what we're gonna get out of Shelby Walters. What are we gonna get out of Shelby Walters? I can't sit there and tell you she's going to be the worst pitcher in the conference. I can't sit there and tell you she's going to be pitcher of the year. I don't know. So for me, the pitching is where it all depends for Georgia. The hitting will be fine. They're not, besides Mosley, they're not going to be just superstars, but the hitting will be consistent. Tony Baldwin's a good hitting coach. We know what he's made of as a hitting coach. The offense will be fine. Mosley's a star. She'll lead it. Yeah, you got to replace Lacey Fincher in the lineup. That's a hole. But overall, the offense will be fine. But for me, the pitching in Georgia is where the biggest question lies. And I don't know how much confidence I have in them to be able to deliver at a high level.
What's in your Dr. Pepper tonight? You're just throwing punt flames, man. Holy mackerel. How do you really feel?
I mean, yeah, y'all don't have me on here to be calm and demure.
No. Thankfully, no, we don't. But hey, you're getting a lot of thoughts there. People are asking about Auburn as a sleeper. You buying that one?
If Shelby Lowe's healthy, yes, they could be a sleeper. Shelby Lowe, Maddie Penta is a really, really solid 1-2 in the circle. If they're both fully healthy, Auburn's pitching could be top 3 staff. It's there's that much talent. And then don't forget, you add Annabelle Widra, the Michigan transfer. So Auburn's pitching staff is really solid if they're healthy. Obviously, that's a big if. Lowe obviously was not healthy last year. It was almost, Lowe was really good one year, then Penta's really good the next year. If they can be both healthy and really good at the same time, it's a huge difference maker for Auburn. because just like what I said about Georgia, it's the exact opposite in Auburn. The potential in Auburn, the ceiling is very high if they're healthy. Obviously, we won't know, and you need to be healthy down the stretch. So there's no way to predict, hey, what's going to happen. If Auburn can be healthy, their pitching is a difference maker. But they're kind of the opposite of Georgia. Their offense is what I don't like in Auburn. They advanced a little bit last year. They were a little better. They weren't great. They were good in Clearwater. They won some games in Clearwater, got some attention and all that kind of thing. But the offense is my issue in Auburn. If the pitching is healthy, Penta, Lowe, throw in a Widra, yes, Auburn could be a sleeper because good pitching makes a bigger difference than good offense. Good offense does not always make up for bad pitching, but good pitching can sometimes make up for a bad offense. And that's honestly why Auburn was in the games they were in to start last year. Penta really had her breakout. We saw that. Auburn could be a sleeper. I don't have them in my top 8 because I don't know how much confidence I have in the health. I don't know. If they're healthy, maybe they join that club, but the offense is still going to be an issue for me.
Trisha Ford, first year at Texas A&M. Thoughts on her in the first year?
What are you trying to do? I haven't even had any Dr. Pepper since we've been on this show.
Eric, what are you? Justin, I'm fully convinced Eric is deliberately doing this to you.
Michelle Carlin, I know you're going to be in Clearwater. Can you get Justin some Dr. Pepper when you meet up there in Clearwater when he's covering the tournament in week 2?
Okay, I'll talk about Texas A&M, but I need you to ask me about a top contender here in a minute. Okay, I need that to be next. That's my only request.
We'll get there.
We'll
get there, Justin.
I thought Georgia was. Apparently not.
I don't like A&M at all this year.
There you go.
I look at them. I don't like the pitching. I don't like the offense. I don't like their schedule. I really don't like their schedule. I don't like A&M this year. I will say this, coming in, Trisha Ford has won everywhere she's been. Trisha Ford coming in, yes, A&M, maybe not A&M's first choice, but they hired somebody who has a history of winning. So you bring in Trisha Ford, then you also she brings in Jeff Harger as hitting coach. And my one thing about Jeff Harger, if you look at what the hallmarks of that ASU offense were, I don't think that offense that the Arizona State had, I don't think that style is going to translate to muggy Texas, to College Station, to the SEC. I don't see that happening. So for me, that's problem number 1. Then problem number 2, you lose arguably your 2 best hitters in Haley Lee and Katie Dack, hitters that you didn't necessarily have to lose. They were on that team when that coaching staff got there. They transferred out after. So there's 2 right there that would be huge difference makers. And I'm telling you right now, if Lee and Dack are still on that team, I don't have nearly the concerns about A&M that I have right now. But with those 2 gone, who's the best hitter on A&M? I couldn't tell you. I mean, yes, is there some talent? Absolutely. You've got Coco Woolley or Bree Warren or Trinity Cannon. Sure, there's talent. But there's no Haley Lee. There's nobody who can make up for what Haley Lee brought to that offense. Katie Dack was right there with her last year. There's nobody who's going to make that up right away. And then you get to the pitching. I actually really like Emily Kennedy, but I don't think it's good for Emily Kennedy to have to shoulder such a load that I think she's going to have to carry. I don't want to see her regress. I think Emily Kennedy is actually a really talented pitcher, and Trisha Ford has a history of having solid pitchers. She's a pitching coach by nature. But I feel for Kennedy because I think she's going to have to shoulder more of a load than she should. And then to be honest with you, I don't even like the transfers that A&M got. Brianna Evans transferred in from Oklahoma State and then ends up just not playing softball anymore. Emily Levitt comes from Minnesota, and she can eat some innings. But that's one of those where, her and Madison Preston both almost, I feel like, are let's just fill up the bullpen, get arms that have been around. And then Julia Cottrell was probably the star of that transfer class. And sure, Julia Cottrell's got talent, but Julia Cottrell's also got a lot else. And, who knows what's going to manifest itself during the course of the year. So I have to have a question mark about that one until I see the proof in the pudding. I don't think it's a favorable outlook for A&M. And their schedule, honestly, if I'm handicapping their schedule, I've got them within a game of 500. And if you're that close to the 500 mark, then you got to play in the tournament. I mean, you're talking about not even making the committee's decision a decision.
But Justin, we've also seen in the last couple of years, the committee have shown that they're not going to be beholden to put all 13 teams in the SEC.
Right. South Carolina has missed it the last couple of years, and that's a question that Cheyenne has in the chat. Do you think South Carolina can make it back to the tournament? I'm sorry. We will. Your thoughts on the Gamecocks? We will ask you about the top, I swear. But yeah, we got our fans.
We got to give the people what they want.
Okay, if I'm going to speak very bluntly about everybody, I'm going to speak bluntly about everybody. I don't like South Carolina either, but I think South Carolina's record is going to be better than Texas A&M's because South Carolina padded their schedule. Right now, if I'm handicapping South Carolina's schedule, I've got them at least over 30 wins because they're playing doubleheaders against in-state opponents and tournaments against 5-6 games against teams that on paper an SEC team should run rule every game. On paper, you never know what's going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. There's a reason that schedule looks like it looks. I think Josh Bloomer has a chance at doing something with the South Carolina offense. Honestly, what he's walking into at South Carolina is similar, comparable at least, to what he walked into at Duke. Because if you think about it, when Josh Bloomer walked in at Duke, that was a Duke team that was just in their first couple of years, but in those first couple of years were not worth spit as an offense. They were just not, they weren't there. They weren't developed. Sure, they were new, so that could have happened. But what happened was Bloomer came in and they developed right away. He walks into a similar thing at South Carolina. It's an offense that badly needs to be developed, badly needs to be exploited for their best talent. Honestly, they need to get more out of what they've got. So I think Bloomer has a chance at doing that there at South Carolina. But at the same time, if there's 12 SEC teams in the NCAA tournament, I think South Carolina gets in, Texas A&M's out, but I think it's because of the record. I think South Carolina's going to pad the record. Honestly, actually, no. I think it's going to come down to who wins the 12-13 game in the SEC tournament, who's going to get in. But if I'm picking on the preseason 12 to get in, I got A&M out because I've got A&M right at or under 500. I got South Carolina well over 500. Honestly, though, I think those two teams are – I think there's a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's a chance the SEC gets 11 in.
Steve B says it best. Justin's making enemies in Austin, College Station. He said we should have just asked him who he does like in the SEC. That's
but Cheyenne said I don't think he would have had much to say. So
is that true? Who do you like, Justin?
I've actually got a couple of text messages here that asked me that exact question.
I believe it. I believe it.
Okay, so I get to say nice things about people now. Is that a thing? Okay.
Yes, you do.
If you want, yeah.
If you want to.
I do like Tennessee. I think Tennessee's is made of something. To me, I think the two deepest, most talented rosters in the SEC are Tennessee and LSU. Those are the teams that I think have the deepest rosters, the teams that I think have on paper the best teams. Now, the problem with both of those teams is they're both in position where I need to see you prove it to me before I can expect you to do great things. Because if you think about it, both of those teams have under-delivered the last couple of years. Tennessee's hosted regionals 2 years in a row and has lost in the regional. They haven't made it out at home. Granted, it was to two teams who were upstarts who made it to the World Series, first James Madison, then Oregon State. But at the end of the day, you lost in your home regional. LSU, obviously, 2-barbecue from the tournament last year. So both of them, I think, have incredibly deep rosters and genuine talent, but I need to see them prove it. That said, I do like both of those teams, and if they can put it together on the field, what they have on paper, those two could be fighting it out for a World Series. Both of them could be in the World Series. I think they're that good, but I need to see them prove it. Florida, I like Florida because I think we learned last year because Tim Walton did not have a good team last year. He had a solid team, but it wasn't a great team. He makes the World Series. That's the hallmark of a Tim Walton team. To me, Florida is my pick to win the SEC for that reason. I think when you get the whole conference down, you go with who's got the experience, who's got the veterans, who's been there, who's done that, who's not going to collapse in the big moments. To me, that's Florida. You've got Skylar Wallace. You've got Charlotte Eccles, who has a chance at a rebound. I mean, her down, quote-unquote, year last year wasn't so down. So you've got Eccles, you've got Wallace, you've got Kendra Falvey even, and you've got enough pitching. Hightower was an All-American a couple of years ago. Trilicek, if she can emerge. So I think you've got enough pieces there, and you've got Tim Walton coaching. Let's just. I'm going to keep going back to that because at the end of the day, that does make a difference.
When in doubt, you have Tim Walton. You always have a chance.
Exactly. So I like the three of them. Arkansas loses a huge senior class. You've got Shanice Delce back. You've got Hannah Gamble to lead the offense. I think Arkansas is going to be down a bit this year. But if the biggest thing to me, similar to what I said about Georgia, is the pitching. I think Arkansas's fortunes are going to depend on the circle. Courtney Dipel's the pitching coach. She knows her way around a bullpen. She's been pretty okay as a pitching coach over the years. That's sarcasm font for those in the comments who might not have gotten
Hashtag sarcasm.
Thank you very much. But to me, that's where Arkansas's fortunes lie, is in the circle. If they can get a solid number 2 to emerge behind Shanice Dells, whether that's Callie Turner, whether that's one of the freshmen, whoever it is, if they can get a solid number 2 who can, go out on Saturday and beat teams in SEC play, maybe even they get a 3 who can start on Sunday, or it can come on in relief on Friday to give Dells some rest, be effective in a few innings, give Dells some rest. That's the difference maker to me for Arkansas. If that doesn't happen, I don't know. That's when we get a little more interesting there. And then Alabama's got Montana Fouts. I'm not huge on their offense. They've got some offensive pieces, but they've got Montana Fouts. And if it's true that Montana Fouts has added a changeup, then exactly. Then that's a game changer. I think I've run across everybody.
Think about this. A Montana Fouts with an additional pitch and motivated after being a part of that Alabama team to be the first to lose in regionals at home.
I'm just glad that it sounds like Justin thinks the SEC could be a multi-bid league. I was a little worried.
I know. I was worried, Eric. I was worried. I worry who's going to have the SEC only be a one-bid league, man, with all the talk that he's been doing.
And Michelle's got you covered, Justin, in Clearwater. You'll get the Dr. Pepper with a tequila chaser.
Oh,
yes.
Sweet Lord.
Victor and I might need one of those, too.
The Sunshine State does not need to witness that.
All right, let's
Maybe
move
we
on.
do. Let's move forward before we incriminate ourselves any further.
Let's go to the Big Ten. Northwestern's the heavy favorite. Do you both agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's the big threat to Northwestern?
Nebraska.
Agreed. Nebraska.
All
Keep
right.
an eye on Illinois, though. Keep an eye on Illinois.
It's fair.
Wisconsin with Matty Schwartz back. There was a 7-bid league for the Big Ten last year, quietly.
That will not happen again.
Okay, there you go.
And the negativity compacts.
I mean, at this point, I feel stereotyped tonight, so I might as well just roll with it. If I'm
He's
going
just going full heel. He's going.
Some people just want to watch the. You're like Roman Reigns after he attacks Sami Zayn. He's just throwing flowers over the SEC and the Big Ten.
I will say this: I do not say things I don't actually believe. I'm just very blunt in saying them.
Touché.
So, just for those who haven't seen these live shows before, I'm just very blunt.
You're not everybody's you're not everybody's can of Dr. Pepper is what you're trying to say, correct?
I'm not.
Thank you.
They need to be a sponsor of this show.
Bojangles.
Yeah, we're giving away free money.
Yes.
Very good. I think I like Northwestern. I do like Nebraska as well. Kind of weird. Michigan, life after Carol Hutchins with the retirement. Bonnie Toll takes over a young Michigan team. Justin, what do we expect from Michigan here in the Bonnie Toll era?
I think year one's going to be a down year. I don't think there's any way to avoid that. Even if Hutch was still there, you lose Alex Storako, you lose Hannah Carson, even Annabelle Weidra transfers out. You're talking about a pitching staff that honestly got decimated through the transfer portal. So I've got questions there. And then, they brought in some transfers. Jessica LeBeau from Kent State was pretty solid at Kent State. Hannah George at North Carolina had one good year. So, I mean, yeah, there's some potential there. And Jen Brundage is a really solid pitching coach. So maybe she gets something out of a Hannah George that didn't get brought out over at North Carolina. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it is a rebuilding year. And it's not just because Hutch retired. I think it's just a lot of things happening at once. And I will say this, I don't think it should be doomsday if Michigan is down this year. You just kind of have to look at everything. I mean, let's be honest. If you had 1 year of Alex Storako left and you thought Annabelle Weidra was going to take Megan Bobian's spot and it was going to be Storako and Weidra, and then you lose both Storako and Weidra, number one, there's nothing you can do about that. But number two, I think you got to give Michigan a little grace. I do expect a down year this year. I don't expect them to be superb. They'll be in the Big Ten conference contention because they're Michigan. And the thing Michigan has going for them is there are still teams in the Big Ten that when you say, hey, we're playing Michigan in Ann Arbor, or even we're playing Michigan at home, there is a certain level of fear that comes with that because Michigan is Michigan. So Michigan will still be in the conference contention because they are still a solid team. They do have some talent still, but they also invoke that fear into some opponents still. No matter, Storako, no Storako, Bobian, no Bobian, anybody. So they got that going for them too. So I think they'll still be in contention, but I expect a down year from them. I expect a little bit of a rebuild.
Yeah. All right. Let's now make our conference picks, and then we'll touch on one or two quick topics, and then get to our World Series picks before Justin makes more enemies.
I'm a popular guy. What can I say?
Just to make some friends.
Let's keep it on the Big Ten. Here's what I want to do with the conference picks. Give me not only your conference champion pick, but also a player, either a player or a pitcher. I'll let you pick. You don't have to pick both. It could be either a player of the year or a pitcher of the year pick, and a bold pick, whatever that is. Either somebody you think will do well, somebody won't do well, etc. for each conference. Okay.
Right.
Big Ten. I'll start. For example, I'll start. I think Northwestern wins the Big Ten. I think they're clearly the team. I mean, they bring everybody back. Danielle Williams, I think, is a lock. I think for pitcher of the year, for Big Ten pitcher of the year. I think they're a team that could definitely be a top 8 national seed, get back to Oklahoma City. My bold pick, I think Iowa finishes in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. I think they are this year's Penn State team. Remember, Penn State finished last, no expectations. Bailey Partial really took a different level for Penn State and got him into. There was a little chatter about them in the tournament, just a little bit. I'm not saying Iowa's in that category, but I love Mandy Gardner as the new pitching coach at Iowa. I think she'll make a difference with that staff. I think Brianna Vasquez is in her last year there. They've got a lot of arms there. I think Iowa finishes middle of the pack. Those are my Big Ten picks.
Interesting. Who's next?
I'll go next. I will go with you, Eric. I agree. Northwestern, I think, is the class of the Big Ten. My bold prediction, I think Maryland finishes top 6 this year. Mark Montgomery has that program going in the right direction. They beat Michigan last year. And similar to what we saw
they were
with
top 6 last year. They finished top 6 last year.
I think they do that again this year, and I think Maryland makes a strong case to be an NCAA tournament team, which would be a tremendous accomplishment for what Coach Montgomery has done, considering what he inherited when he took over the program after leading Louisiana Tech to their success.
There you go. Do you have a pitcher or player of the year pick in the Big Ten?
Well, Danielle Williams is going to be pitcher of the year, of course.
There you go. Justin?
I mean, I got to join both of you. Northwestern's going to win. That's the easy championship pick. Bold prediction, I'm going to say Nebraska makes a super.
Ooh.
There you go.
I think Nebraska's got it in to make a super. Olivia Farrell last year graduated and kind of took away from that 1-2. But Sarah Harness transfers in from Southern Illinois. You've got Kaylin Kinney there, could be a third arm. If those 3 arms, and with Courtney Wallace, who's the ace returning, if you combine those 3 arms and they're actually effective, especially with so many other teams, even conferences in the nation being down, that opens up the playing field. So I'm going to say bold prediction: Nebraska makes a super. And then player pitcher of the year, that's tougher for me. I mean, I could say Williams is pitcher of the year, but that's too cheap for me. That's too easy. No,
aren't you on the cheap seats?
I am. I couldn't resist. I mean, yeah, I'll go the cheap way. Honestly, I think Williams. I think Williams. I mean, she's the easy pitcher of the year. Honestly, I think she could be another unanimous pick again.
Yeah, could be a national player of the year contender too. That could be a national year contender too.
Easily.
All right, SEC, Justin's favorite conference. So I'll start with you, sir. Go ahead.
I've got Florida winning the conference, and I'm going to save the bold prediction for last year because you guys and the comment section are going to really enjoy the bold prediction.
Oh boy!
So I need a head cover? Do I need a head cover?
Do I have to worry about somebody coming from behind with a steel chair because of this bold prediction?
So. No, you don't. So I'm going to say player of the year in the SEC. I'm going to go Skylar Wallace because I mean I think well, Mr. Lopez, you've got time to think of somebody else, Mr. Lopez, because let me just tell you.
You're talking. You did to Eric what you did to me last year with my World Series Champ Series. You took my pick and I had to adjust on the fly.
I haven't even got a goal for this. Eric kicked him out.
Since Eric is out of the room and needs a moment, I will go next with the SEC. I will go with the defending champion Arkansas Razorbacks.
Okay.
I will go with player of the year. I'm gonna go Hannah Gamble for
Okay.
player of the year. Because I think she's gonna be asked to carry a lot more of the offense. No KB Size, no Danielle Gibson. I think Hannah Gamble will be the player of the year. Pitcher of the year. I will go. I think Peyton Gottschall from Tennessee. That's my dark horse pitcher of the year candidate because you mentioned it, Justin. Ashley Rogers is not going to be 100%. Gottschall is used to carrying the load. I think she can be that one, and Rogers just serve as a complimentary role until the postseason comes around. Now, Eric, have you had some time, Eric, to think about after Justin swiped your player of the year pick from underneath you, gave you a Sami Zayn like chair shot to the back to your Roman Reigns?
Now, for the record, I did not make my bold prediction, so you go right ahead with your picks. I saved that one knowing you wanted to be here for it.
When are you making this pick?
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna let you make yours, and I'm gonna save that for last because y'all are gonna enjoy it.
We have a section called Bold Predictions, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the podcast. So,
oh my lord,
be prepared.
I've got Florida as well to win the SEC. Look, I mean, it's Tim Walton, it's Florida. We know better, right? I'm just gonna go with them. They'll figure it out. They always do.
Both of y'all pick it against the two-time SEC champions. Okay, cool.
Now, Justin's clearly not been an Arkansas person.
Let's see.
So,
anyway,
but no, I do like Florida. I think it's wide open. I mean, look, this is a wide open. I'm gonna make this. I had Skylar Wallace winning Player of the Year. Thanks. I got Montana Fouts. Am I picking Montana Fouts? Am I the only one picking Montana Fouts for Pitcher of the Year?
No, I would have had her as pitcher. I only picked player of the year. I thought we were doing one or the other, so I didn't say pitcher. But
you said one or the other, Eric. You said one or the other, sir. How about you actually follow your own rules? How about that?
Well, the problem is that he took my player of the year pick. Anyway, my bold pick. I don't know if it's a bold pick. I'm going to give you two bonus bold picks. SEC gets quote only 11.
Okay.
Hey, look at Vic. Likes that.
Okay.
Number 2. LSU wins the SEC tournament.
Whoa.
Wow. Wow. I'm sure there's a certain individual in the chat will be very happy with that selection, Victorina. Guess we're gonna go there.
There you go.
Ole Miss
wins the SEC tournament, gets into top 8 national seed. There you go.
Since we're gonna go there, I think Ole Miss finishes top 5.
There you go.
You want mine now?
Go.
No.
Here we go.
Save yours.
Go.
Save yours. Save it, Justin. Save yours.
No, what do you mean save
it?
It?
Save it for bold predictions. We have a segment called Bold Predictions.
Well,
Justin, save it for that.
All
yes,
right.
we did.
So you want me to save? You don't want me to say it right now?
No, save it.
Oh, okay.
We want the dramatic effect when you actually say it.
All right. ACC. Let's go on. ACC.
I'll go first to the ACC. I will go with Florida State winning the regular season. My bold prediction: a Florida State pitcher will win Pitcher of the Year. It won't be Kat Sandercock, though. Allie Dubois will be my Pitcher of the Year for Florida State. And if that happens, that's great news for Florida State fans, and I'll explain why later on.
Wow.
Okay.
I will go Florida State to win the ACC. I'm going Valerie Cagle, Player of the Year.
Okay, Player of the Year, Pitcher of the Year, or both?
Player.
Okay.
Player. Because I'm going to go Sandercock, Pitcher of the Year. So we'll go with Seminole. Seminole sounds like it's going to win Pitcher of the Year on that. Now you've got me thrown up. Wait, we're doing a bold pick that late? No, I'm really what?
Okay, Eric, you're the one that. Okay, for those of you who are going to watch this video back, go ahead and get the clip when Eric set the protocols for this segment and see if Justin and I are following them to a T, or is Eric trying to make up the rules as he goes along?
I'm just here as the resident Stephen A. Smith at this point, I guess.
Justin, go ahead.
Well, what the?
Wow.
Okay, let's see. ACC, Florida State to win. Oh my gosh.
You made both.
Comment section is going to have a ball. I've kicked both of you out at some point of your own podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, ACC, FSU to win. I like FSU to rebound from last year quite a bit. So FSU to win. I'm gonna go. I mean, I could say pitcher of the year would be Kat Sandercock for me too, but I'm gonna go player of the year. I'm going to say, actually, this one's tough. I kind of like Emma Ritter up at Virginia Tech.
Ooh, that's a little bold. That could be a bold one there. I like that.
No,
Not as bold as Justin saying that he's Stephen A. Smith. I mean,
Well-
hey, Michelle Carlin, I know I'm supposed to be saying this before the show, but hey, I'm starting it early. Like, thanks, Justin.
All I know is that the same reaction that Stephen A. Smith invokes in me, I have invoked in both of you already.
Hey, you haven't even gotten to your bold prediction, which is the scariest part of this whole
Do you want
entire
my bold
process.
prediction for the ACC now, or do you want me to hold on to it?
Wait, you got bold predictions for multiple conferences?
I thought he said one for every conference.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. SEC.
Okay,
ACC.
fine. Okay, fine. Go ahead. Give your bold. Matter of fact, you know what, Justin? I'm gonna give you the spotlight on you. Bold prediction. Here you go. Go right ahead.
Sweet Lord.
Hey, you're the one that said he got a bold prediction for the ACC. Here you go.
And the SEC. He said SEC, and then he's got one that he's really been saving.
No, save the boldest one for that bold prediction segment, because I feel that's going to be
the SEC bold prediction is going to wait till last. But
right,
Cheyenne
great.
or whoever's in the comment section is going to have to add another one to the list. I think Duke finishes 5th in the ACC and does not make a super.
Ooh, there you go.
That's my bold prediction for the ACC.
Pac-12.
UCLA.
Yeah, I got UCLA. We all got UCLA.
Yeah.
Margin.
It's Ferramo. Everybody's Ferramo's pitcher of the year, player. What do we got here?
For Ramo and Klingler for me, pitcher
Yeah.
or player.
Yeah.
Player.
I agree. Bold pick, bold prediction. Any bold predictions from the Pac-12?
I'm not going first.
Fine, I'll go first. Cal finishes top 5 in the Pac-12.
Woo! Chelsea Spencer.
That is bold.
Bold. That's bold. Bold.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Wow. That's a good one. That's I did not see that one coming. Not gonna lie. My next bold pick, I think Utah finishes top 5 Pac-12.
Wow.
That's my bold pick. Bold. Yeah. And then Big 12. Big 12. Gee, I wonder who we're picking.
I was actually thinking about Kansas.
I don't know.
You know what?
I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
about
hang
that.
on.
Kansas. Bill Self does. His teams don't play well when Victor's
Hey,
broadcasting.
Justin,
They get run off the court.
Justin, we're talking softball here, not basketball. You do realize that, right?
No, I have to apologize to the Jayhawks. You did not deserve to catch a stray right there. My apologies to those in Lawrence. Your football team was fun to watch for the first half of this year.
All right. So
So Lawrence, Kansas is now on Justin's
Yeah.
enemy list.
Oh.
So let's see. We have we have Austin, we have Athens, we have Lawrence, Kansas. Can someone keep track of the places that Justin McLeod is not going to be invited to in the immediate future?
There's a
All right.
longer list than's in the comment section right now. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we'll be keeping track of that, sir.
all right. Big 12 picks.
Oklahoma wins.
Mm-hmm.
I got Baylor finishing 3rd.
Oh,
that's-
really?
How it feels, huh? Now you know how it feels. Now you know how it feels to have someone take someone's pick. Now you know how it feels. The temerity, the unmitigated gall that you had to take Eric Lopez's SEC Player of the Year pick. But Justin, I will give you credit. You actually stayed in the room like Eric, who had to walk off the set.
My goodness.
Oh,
It's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, ladies and gentlemen.
Is
Things
that-
are broken
you
down
both
as usually
going-
happens here.
You're both going Baylor 3rd.
yeah.
Wow. My bold pick, Iowa State finishes ahead of Baylor. How about that?
Oh,
How about that? Give me
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes, Jamie Pickett. It looks like we got a
Okay.
little Iowa State Baylor battle.
Okay.
here.
I see that. I can see that.
For the record, I have just received a text message that apparently I did not make a bold prediction for the Pac-12. You know who you are that's watching and texted me. Do we want to save that for the end as well?
Yes, the Pac.
Okay. Just checking.
Oh, no. Jim Munoz has a bold prediction. The Pac-12 will fold after 2024, and USC and Colorado adopt softball.
That's bold. I'll give you bold.
I'm
Wow.
not touching it. Not touching
Thank
it.
you, Jim Munoz, for understanding the assignment. Bravo.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Justin. Give your Pac-12 bold prediction there.
UCLA and Stanford are both top 8s, and the Pac-12 does not host another regional.
That's it? 2?
Yeah.
Yowza. That is bold.
Well, let's remember, Eric. Let's remember, 2 of the Pac-12 teams that made it to the tournament World Series last year had to go on the road. So
that's pretty wild. That's wild. Are we go player of the year, pitcher or pitcher of the year? We don't think we picked for Big 12.
Big 12. I'm going Jennings, player of the year, pitcher of the year. I'm going Maxwell.
Yeah,
Justin.
that's easy. That's easy for me. Jennings and Maxwell.
Okay.
Nothing
That's good. We all agree with that, which means it's not going to happen now.
No, yeah, you're right.
All right, are we going to allow Justin to do his SEC poll pick now? Are we,
You know what?
Are we doing the bowl pick segment now here?
Let's just do this segment now because I got a banner doggone it. We're gonna use it. Bold predictions, ladies and gentlemen. Your boldest prediction. And let's go to the most hated man in all of softball today.
Probably learned he's the Stephen A. Smith of softball, at least on this show.
The jokes I can make that I choose not to,
Can't wait
especially with the
can't wait
beverage
to
that I'm
hear,
consuming right now.
Can't wait to read Justin's memoir. What do you got?
Okay, so before I make my SEC prediction, oh Lord, full screen. Okay,
Hey, here you go. Here you go, brother.
So,
You're
now,
Stephen A. Smith. You want the spotlight.
Before I make this, I just need to remind anyone who was listening how much I hate 2/3 of the SEC. Clearly, how I had bad things to say about pretty much the entire SEC for this, that, or the other. The teams I like still need to prove it to me. Y'all remember I said all that, right?
But
Bold pick in the SEC. 3 SEC teams make the World Series. Now, would you like me to tell you why I think so? Why have I contradicted myself here? Because I think
Stephen A. Smith, you say something, you say something else to contradict what you previously said. So you're right.
I still believe there will be. So here's the thing: last year there were bad Pac-12 teams in the World Series. I think the SEC gets the benefit of that this year. I think there are because there are so many who are down. Because right now, think about how much trouble Jenna had, or Caylan had, or we will have to make our World Series predictions. It's not a clear field of 8. It's a clear field of 3, maybe 4, 5 if you're lucky. That's 3 spots. That's almost half the World Series field that we're going to have to, we've either had to or will have to really think.
Right.
This year, I think the SEC is the beneficiary of that because there is such a down. I think it's going to be such a down year in so many different places. I think the SEC has enough talent and, yes, may cannibalize itself, but will be stronger because of that. So I think at the end of the day, the SEC kind of is in position of what the Pac-12 was last year because this is the first time I think the SEC has not had the level of expectation. If you think about what the SEC's done in the postseason the last couple of years, they didn't deliver. They didn't deliver in the postseason. And I think the SEC this year is just going to be the beneficiary of that. They're going to get the right assignments. The expectations are not going to be as high. And I think there are going to be SEC teams who maybe are not among the best 8 in the country who are going to make the World Series and be one of the final 8 in the country.
Victor,
Wow.
you want to follow that?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my darndest, and I will try to top what Justin said. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want your bold predictions, take this recording that I'm going to say and apply it to next year because I'm the same individual who said on previous season previews that Arkansas will make it to a super. I'm the same individual that said Clemson would make it to a super, and I was a year off. So make with
That's
this
true.
what you will. My bold prediction in 2023 is that the ACC will have more teams in the Women's College World Series than the Pac-12.
Oh.
Kalyn
Wow.
Arnold said it best. You look at the growth of the conference with Florida State. You look at Virginia Tech, Clemson, Duke, programs up and coming with Georgia Tech, Notre Dame. It feels that the ACC has been knocking on the door for so long in terms of being that conference. But one of our people mentioned it in the chat earlier. Is the ACC the 3rd best conference behind the Big 12? I think 2023, the ACC can legitimately say that we can stand toe to toe with the Big 12. And at least for this year and next year, we can say we are its conference equal in softball. So I think the ACC will have more teams in the Women's College World Series this year than the Pac 12. Whether I agree with that or not, you have to listen to my predictions to find out.
All right. I got a couple here I'm going to make. First, Fox, ESPN, the Big 12, and Oklahoma and Texas will reach an agreement by July 1st to let OU and Texas into the SEC a year early. In return, Justin McLeod will replace Shannon Sharp as the co-host for Skip Bayless on
What?
Undisputed.
Why does he get to replace Shannon? Why not me?
That's the deal. Because Justin doesn't get into fights in the NBA. Watching with the Morant's Memphis players. So that's one prediction. My other bold prediction: this will be the last year that we seed 16 teams in the NCAA tournament. I Bleav next year we will
wait. Oh, 16 seeded teams.
Correct.
Seeded team.
Okay.
I think next year we will go to 32 teams to seed the tournament, like volleyball and women's soccer did this fall. I think this will be the last year we go to 16 teams. I think it'd have 32. I think there's support for that within those coaches. We'll see what the feedback is from volleyball and women's soccer, but I Bleav softball and baseball will follow suit next year and seed 32 teams, which will change a lot because we're so used to the geography matchups and everything. That will go away to some extent as far as the top 2 seeds are concerned. You'll still have some geography with the 3 and the 4 seeds. Your thoughts, gentlemen, on going to 32 seeds?
Well, the thing is, you have to make sure that make sure that you're seeding it based on the metrics and the quality, and not just basing it on what 3 seed can we bust to the 1 seed? Where we got to go with that? That's the biggest thing with the seeding. And for the love of, can I make it? Can I make it? I don't. This is not a bold prediction. This is a suggestion.
No, but go ahead if you want to make it bold. Yeah.
I bold prediction with Eric saying that we're going to go to 32 seeded teams. We're going to get rid of the 400-mile rule.
Oh, now that's bold.
That's bold.
Here's my bold prediction. We get rid of the 4. And we're going to revamp this tournament thing, and you're going to see 32 teams. Just blow it up. Get rid of the 400-mile rule, because I'm sick and tired of seeing the same teams travel to UCLA, the same teams travel to Norman. I'm sure, Eric, you're tired of going to Florida or Florida State when UCF isn't hosting. I'm sure Alabama fans are tired of seeing the SWAC champion show up in Tuscaloosa. If we blow up the 400-mile rule, we could have more quality regionals, which means more teams have a chance to advance to supers, which means we can have more teams potentially get to Oklahoma City. And isn't that what we want for the sport of softball?
You're giving the NCAA too much credit. You do.
Right. You're right.
Listen, if that happens, if that's bold, Justin will grab a Mountain Dew from Skip Bayless and bring it over to you.
No, Diet Mountain Dew. It has to be Diet Mountain Dew. As a matter of, you know what? Actually, I got another bold prediction.
Is that because is Diet Mountain Dew to you, Victor, undisputed?
Oh,
no, this is.
Oh,
It's undisputed.
Right.
No, actually, Eric, I had to correct you on your trade. For Texas and Oklahoma to lead the Big 12, Justin is actually going to replace Skip Bayless on Undisputed next year. Jenna Becerra will take over the role of Jen Hale, and I will be taking over for Nick Wright on First Things First on FS1. So that's
what did Jenna do to deserve that? Like, she's better than
that's what I was thinking.
With all due respect.
Okay. So we keep Jen Hale. We put Jenna Becerra on with First Things First. We kick out whoever that dude that calls himself the Puxatawny Phil, and you put me in for Nick Wright. How about that?
I will take Jenna as a debate partner. Jenna and I
mean?
can have some serious debate. That could be really fun. I will take Jenna on whatever TV show you want to place us on.
All right, there you go.
That could
there
be
you
some
go.
really
yes.
All right, very good.
All right, gentlemen.
One more bold pick.
Yes.
There will be a non-Power 5 team in Oklahoma City this year at the World Series.
Ooh. Okay, I like that actually. I quite like that.
And with that goes a good segue. That's what we like.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for, or some of us have been dreading. The picks that we will make, and I'm sure that all these picks can and will be used against us in the court of social media and all
Somebody
avenues.
did say 5 minutes into the show in the comments that they were keeping a record of these picks this year.
Well, I hope you're writing them down, ladies and gentlemen. Here
Justin,
we go.
You're the guest, so you go first.
Yes.
Oh, that is cruel and unusual.
Okay. Hold on. Before we get started, I feel we are in agreement of at least 3 teams going to Oklahoma City. We agree Oklahoma.
Bold.
Yep.
Yeah.
We agree UCLA.
Bold.
Yeah.
We agree Oklahoma State.
Bold.
Yeah.
Bold.
So those are the 3.
Yep.
So those are the 3.
We're all going to look like geniuses if those 3 make it, you know.
We
really know our stuff for picking those 3.
All right.
Whoopty freaking do. So we're picking what other 5 teams will be joining them in Oklahoma City that first week in June. And Mr. McLeod, as Eric says, since you are the guest, you get to go first.
Oh, yay me.
Yay you.
All right, let's go Florida State 4. Now, and I'm not seeding these. I just have
no. We're just picking a grade.
I know, but I got to tell the comment section when I say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not saying that's the order.
These are not the seedings, ladies. Like I said, these are not standings. These are not rankings. These are not the seedings.
I don't have enough Dr. Pepper in me to keep track of numbers without.
This ain't college baseball. You know,
correct.
No,
all right, so Florida State's my 4th team. I'm going to go Florida. Again, that's my SEC champion pick, so not super bold there. Tennessee 6.
Ooh.
I think Lady Vols have a chance at figuring it out, actually getting back this year. 7-8 was actually really tough for me. 7-8 was tougher than it probably had a right to be. I'm going to go Clemson from the ACC. I think the 1-2 pitching, I think Clemson's second best team in the ACC with in terms of pitching, and I think that's going to get them home. So I think Clemson is my 7th team. And my 8th team, I sat down and I crunched numbers and I thought hard about it. And then I wiped all those thoughts away and did it all over again. But if you think about it, if you've done the math, it's got to be an SEC team.
Yes, you did, because you did say 3. You did say 3.
And so I've talked about how many SEC teams I hate. Clearly, hater. Kendall Rogers is the hater of all college baseball teams. I am clearly the hater of all SEC college softball teams.
So wait. So y'all, you know what you do? You know what we should do, Eric? We should bring Chappelle's show back for one night and have Justin and Kendall host the second ever Player Haters Ball.
So I will say this: it came down.
I'll let you all handle that.
It came down to 3 teams for me for the 8th spot. It was between LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas. I believe actually that I picked all 3 of those teams to the World Series within the last 2 years. Only one of them made it in the last 2 years. So, I sat down and I crunched. And am I stalling for time? Yes, because am I reconsidering on the spot? Yes. But I'm actually going to go Alabama.
Ooh.
Oh, baby. Roll Tide.
Yeah, just like Stephen A. Smith, because he likes all things Alabama. Stephen A. Smith.
All right, so repeat that again.
All right, so Oklahoma, UCLA, Oklahoma State, Florida State, Florida, Tennessee, Clemson, Alabama.
Wow.
And for the record, that is a reluctant Alabama. I just want to note that. Not that it matters. I picked him to go to the World Series, but it is a reluctant Alabama.
Now, Vic, do you want him to pick the national title, or do you want him to wait?
Let's wait.
All right, Vic, you're up.
Okay, so I agree with Justin on Florida State. I got Clemson as well with Justin, so we're agreeing too much there.
Right.
Now, this is where I differ with you. I got Arkansas finally breaking through, making it to Oklahoma City.
Breakthrough for Courtney Deifel and company.
Breakthrough for Courtney Deifel, yes. So we got that's my 6th.
That's your fifth.
6th.
That's my 6th. It's got, because remember we got the three locks: Oklahoma,
right,
UCLA, and
Clemson. And then you said Clemson and Arkansas. I'm assuming you go
Florida State.
Clemson, Arkansas, Florida State.
Okay.
I got 6 there. This Northwestern's my 7th.
Okay.
I can make an argument Danielle Williams is one of the top 3 pitchers in America right now. And they got a loaded team coming back, and they want to get back at the going O2 barbecue a year ago. So I got Northwestern as my 7th. And I like Justin. I went back and forth with my 8th, and it was really difficult. I thought about Virginia Tech. I thought about Alabama a little bit. I even thought about LSU. But with me, I always had that one pick, and everyone's like, "Wait, you did what?" Yeah. So for me, this pick is gonna be real, let's say, controversial. I will say, especially after the bold prediction I made this year. I am going to say Oregon makes it to Oklahoma City.
Wow.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I was not
Wow.
expecting that.
Expand on that while I go flop. Ric Flair's flop.
Well, now that Eric's left the room.
Oh my gosh, I was not expecting Oregon.
Well, I thought about Oregon because yes, I understand they use Giannis. I understand that. But they have a lot of offense returning back from a team a year ago. And everyone's going to be talking about UCLA. Everyone's going to be talking about Washington. Everyone's going to be talking about Arizona. And Oregon was banged up last year. People forget about Oregon being banged up and injury riddled last year. So if Oregon's fully healthy and they got the pitcher transferring in from UConn, let's not forget about that, Justin. Who was
Don't forget about Morgan Scott from Greensboro too.
Morgan Scott as well. Yes, Jim. We remember Giannis is at UCLA. I know that I picked UCLA to get to the World Series. But if Oregon, it all depends on if Oregon gets a favorable matchup. Because I think that offense can stay healthy and those pitchers can develop under Lombardi. I think Oregon can shock some people and make their way to Oklahoma City. Now, again, I can be completely wrong. Ain't been the first time, won't be the last.
You know, you say that, though, it makes me wonder what's a favorable matchup for Oregon in the postseason. Because they do have no Giannis. They do have Hanson, Scott, Sokolsky, young and or inexperienced Pac-12 pitching. They got that offense coming. I'm curious what a favorable matchup looks like for Oregon.
Well, here's the other thing. But again, let's look at this right. Let's remember.
Jim
Oregon
Munoz going in. You remember Giannis is
yes.
at UCLA?
I'm
right?
aware of this. Thank you.
Wow. Look at Michelle's what? Like that's boy, Vic. You were bold.
Look, hey, fortune favors the bold, and fortune favors sometimes the stupid. So I'm gonna be I'm gonna be one or the other. I'm gonna be one or the other when we look at these predictions in 4 months. So we'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
Very good.
All right, Mr. Lopez, your turn.
All right.
Best for
I-
last.
Should I just put UCF in right now for you?
I will be going with Oklahoma
Shocked.
State, UCLA, Florida State, Northwestern, and Florida. That's 6, correct?
Yes.
I'm going Stanford, the
Oh,
Cardinal
okay.
Tree.
All right.
Tree. Jessica Allister gets her alma mater to the World Series.
Are you just doing that so you can keep Jenna Becerra as your favorite podcast host?
No, it's because she made a lot of sense.
Good
And I really
point.
do like
Fair
Jessica
point.
Allister. Really, I great, and I think the 1-2 punch pitching. I think the experience from last year. I actually think they're clearly the second best team in the Pac-12. As long as they're in the Pac-12, who knows how long that'll last. But I think Stanford. I really like their pitching staff, and I think if that offense takes the next step, I think we're going to get an Allister, Mendoza, Ramona, Shelbourne reunion in Oklahoma City. So that's Stanford. I like the 7th. And then my 8th team, February 21st.
Don't do it. Don't
February
do it.
21st at the Plex.
Eric, don't do it.
Victor will be there, maybe.
Don't
Spirit.
do it. Eric,
Justin will
don't
be
do
there.
it. Don't
This
let.
team right here is
Oh,
going to host
don't do it.
Louisiana. The winner will go to OKC.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We are not doing this. We
I
are
just
not.
wanted to show off the helmet. It's a cool.
That is a
You know,
That is
people help it.
no. We're not doing this.
Fine, I'm going Cajuns. Going Cajuns. World Series. I think they're really good.
So does that mean you're
Ooh.
picking the Cajuns to win that game over UCF too? That's what I heard.
No, I
there.
think it gets rained out actually.
Yes.
okay.
Oh wow.
I think those two. If UCF finds pitching, I think they got a shot. I think somebody will get. Texas State's a team I like too, but I really do think this is the year where the non-Power 5 they will get more teams into the tournament than people think. I think you could see multiple bid leagues in the American, multiple bid leagues in the Sun Belt, multiple bid leagues in the CUSA, multiple bid leagues in the Mountain West. Check out the X ratings on Monday for your bracketology preseason, by the way. Cheap plug.
By the way, the only person in America who got all 64 and all 16 host sites last year, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome, America.
There you go. No, I like the Cajuns. They got everybody back. This is it for Jerry. Jerry's got to get over the hump, Justin, finally. Louisiana, he's got everything he needs.
Getting to a super would be getting over the hump.
Yes.
Getting to the World Series, like you got to look up for the
That's the icing on a
pigs and
Sunday.
down for the ice.
Yes.
Although actually, that's a really good sleeper pick. I think the Cajuns. This is the best team I think the Cajuns had. So actually,
If not now, win for it.
I like them. I do it. I like LSU too. I'm like you, Justin. I kind of want to see it, especially behind Kilpone in the pitching. I think LSU. I think this could be a monster year in the state of Louisiana with LSU and Louisiana. I think that could be a collision, and maybe they collide in the supers, which wouldn't.
No, Eric, you're giving the selection committee too much credit. I'll actually put them together in the regional.
I'm gonna be positive. They were good.
They did good last year. I'll give them.
Let's wait until selection night, then we'll go on.
Which will be live for that as well.
Yes, where will I be? Who knows? National title picks.
Am I first again?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I got Oklahoma winning their third because Oklahoma they say the power of 3. So Oklahoma will win their third national championship. They would do so in 3 games, and they would do so against Florida State. So it'll be a rematch of 2 years ago of Oklahoma and Florida State, and Oklahoma wins the national championship.
Last year, by seeds, Oklahoma and FSU was 1-2. So Justin?
Well, I know it's going to shock you. I'm also going OU to win. I'm actually also going 3-game series, but I'm picking Bedlam for the national championship series.
You had it last year. You were a handful of outs away from nailing that pick.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of really, really sad to watch errors away from nailing that pick.
Yeah, true. That's true.
I felt my psychic abilities leaving my body when I saw those errors. It was really.
As Kevin Brown's voice went up, your disappointment went with it.
Yeah, it really did. It was very sad. Mr. Lopez?
Well, who's winning?
Oklahoma.
Oh, you were State? Okay, all right.
Yeah. I'm going to pick against Oklahoma. What? How much Dr. Pepper do you think I've had?
Based on what do you really want to answer that question?
I mean, we don't need.
Do you really want the answer to that question?
All right.
No.
I do have Oklahoma in the title series like you two, but a double not so fast. UC, LA. UC, LA. The last time
Michelle Carlin, you need to teach Eric how to properly do the 8 clap, okay? It's you. C LA. UCLA fight. I think I did it right. I've heard it enough times in Oklahoma City.
Listen, it's hard to win 3 in a row. The last team to do it was in the early 90s with UCLA.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Yes, lessons in Clearwater.
Listen, we're going to get a preview of this February 26th, Mary Nutter, UCLA, Oklahoma.
With some subpar commentary from another streaming service.
We don't need to go there.
Okay.
Blame this.
So, I like UCLA. I think Oklahoma can win it. I mean, that's not like – it's hard to win 3 in a row. I was there in Oklahoma City the last time Oklahoma was trying to go for a 3-peat. Got derailed by Washington with great pitching. Gabby Plain was part of that with the 1-2 punch that they had there in Washington. Justin, you and I were there. That was the year FSU won it Washington with a 1-2 punch shut down that Oklahoma offense,
Yep,
right?
Tara Navallo and Gabby Flame.
Well, I think UCLA is going to have the same thing. They've got Megan Faremo. You're going to have Brooke Giannis. 1-2 punch, maybe even more arms with some young talent, a great recruiting class they have in with the returners on offense. This was a team that did beat Oklahoma, forced an if necessary game in OKC. And I think UCLA, man, I'm hearing good things there. I think UCLA is the team that could beat Oklahoma. I like the Oak State pick too. And I like FSU. I actually think that's pretty fair as far as the national title content window there.
Just
Taylor
to be clear,
Tingley, yeah,
your pick is who to win the Natty?
UCLA.
Eric, stop.
How many games in the championship series?
No, we're due for 3, man. Let's go.
Okay,
3.
just checking.
Let's go 3. Taylor Tinsley, maybe the freshman of the year nationally for UCLA. That's right. I do. I like UCLA, and that will be an iconic matchup if it's UCLA and Oklahoma. That would be a monster pick. I don't think it's a bold pick.
No,
but it's hard to win 3 in a row. It's hard.
It is.
Big stage. Now, again, if Oklahoma wins, I don't think it's a stunning development either. I think that's a pick there. National Player of the Year picks.
Ooh. Who's first on this one?
I'll go first. I'm going Valerie Cagle, Clemson, to edge out Megan Faremo of UCLA and Tiare Jennings of Oklahoma.
Wow.
I caught both of you off guard on that one, didn't I?
No, I'm still thinking about what 3 do I want to have for my finalists.
Well, Justin, sounds like you're going then.
Okay.
Although the way they vote, Faremo may win it because UCLA makes the World Series and Clemson doesn't. So I'll give you that caveat. But I really think Cagle's in for a monster year. So
I'm gonna go. I'm loving it. We got to get to the comment section when we get done with these picks. There's like 3 different things that are amazing over there right now.
Sure.
I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna stick. Bailey Klinger was number 1 in the Extra Elite 100. I'm gonna stick with Bailey Klinger as National Player of the Year because I think she's gonna do it on a bad Washington team. So I think it's gonna stand out. I mean, that's kind of what she did last year, where she was the standout on a team that kind of underperformed. I think that makes it more impressive. So I'm gonna go Klingler. I'm going to say Klingler over Jennings and Kelly Maxwell.
It's good.
I will go with Tiare Jennings. Danielle Williams, Addison Barnard's my 3 finalists.
Whoa.
Because Addison Barnard, bold prediction, number 2 for yours truly. Addison Barnard will be the first player in college softball history to have 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. She came close last year. I think she gets 30 for 30 this year. She becomes a finalist, helps lead Wichita State to a super regional as well in the process. And I think she's a top 3 finalist with Danielle Williams and Tiare Jennings. And Tiare Jennings wins it.
It's Tiare. Yeah, it's Tiare.
Tiare Jennings. My apologies, Oklahoma fans. Tiare.
This is not Wheel of Fortune, I didn't think.
Yeah, I would like to buy a vowel. Thank you, sir. Thank you for correcting me on my pronunciation.
Sydney McKinney could be your sleeper.
Tiare,
it can be right. It's pumped up Sydney McKinney. I agree with Sydney McKinney. Addison Barnard. That'll be interesting how that goes with the 2 of them and how much support they get voting wise there. Pitcher of the year, Justin, sounds like you think Maxwell.
Maxwell, I mean, it's for me, Maxwell for Faremo are the 2 best pitchers in the country by a bit of a margin, but yeah, Maxwell.
Vic?
Maxwell could win it. I had Danielle Williams as my top 3 finalists for Player of the Year. Williams is going to be in it. Let's not discount the People's Queen Montana Fouts, by the way.
No, I think Fouts is in there, but I like Faremo. But yeah, Fouts right there. So is Danielle Williams. Those are my 3
Can
best.
I get Eric
and Maxwell? It's a good year.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
If
Jordy
your
Ball.
point about Texas State is correct, I think Jessica
Mullins
Mullins could be a dark horse for National Pitcher of the Year. Texas State has the season that you think they're capable of. Mullins could definitely be a candidate.
Well, we can give you our thoughts of who's the best pitcher not in the Power 5, but
But
wait, because on the In the Circle podcast Monday morning on your podcast feed, or if you can't wait till Monday morning, check out the YouTube channel on
Sunday night specials.
Me and Justin are going to break down all 27 non-Power 5 conference. That's right, all 27 to break down every conference. No other show does it. And we will talk about who we think is the Georgina Coric of softball this year in the mid-May. Is Sydney McKinney the best player? Is it Addison Barnard? Is it somebody else? We'll go through all 27 conferences. And oh, by the way, for that podcast episode, we'll also be joined by Amanda Scarborough, who will give her thoughts.
Casual name drop.
On the Power 5. Justin, you don't mind being kind of second fiddle on that episode?
I can handle being second fiddle to Amanda Scarborough. I think I can find a way to be okay with that.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. That's going to be fun. Scarborough and obviously Justin. We'll break down all 32 conferences on the Monday podcast episode morning. So make sure wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, give us a 5-star review. Also, it'll be on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a like there as well. So we'll give a breakdown of all 32 conferences to get you for the season. We still got some head coaches. I know people are asking about Heather Tarr. We will air the Heather Tarr interview later in the week as well as Tim Walton, as well as Sydney Ball Malone. What do they have in common? They all got to spend the summer together, hanging out, winning a championship with the U.S. national team. It's pretty good. Pretty good week.
Let me also throw a mention to Jim. Jim, I see you. Yes, the Pac-12 will survive.
All right, what were the questions here we got to address here?
Oh my goodness! First of all, you people in the chat are as always tremendous. So
I'm loving this chat. This is the most fun chat on the season previews yet. I'm loving it.
It's awesome.
Let's see which ones
we got. Steve
have.
saying Kinsey Hansen will win Player of the Year. That's a bold one.
That's bold.
That's a bold one.
I agree with Fang Nye that Player of the Year is wide open.
Yep.
100% agree.
There's a lot wide open this year in college
Caylan
softball.
Dean says bold prediction for Ramo is going to have a down year. Not on the UCLA bandwagon. He's going to have a down year like last year was a down year for Fouts.
I think for Ramo's down year came when she missed the World Series in 21. I think her down year was
Giannis emerging as the ace for UCLA.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's see what other predictions we have. Cheyenne's agreeing with Justin. She wants Bedlam for the national championship. Now, look, if Bedlam happens for the national championship, you know those people in Los Angeles and New York are going to say how bad it is for college softball. You got two teams from the state that are literally miles away from Oklahoma City or playing for the national championship. So you know what, Bill Plaschke? You know what, Israel Gutierrez? You know what, George Sedano? Let me stop right there. Let me stop right there. I want to save all that energy for when it actually happens.
I will add to the Jim Munoz question: will the Pac-10-12 survive? Yes, they will survive. However, interesting to see what their new TV deal will look like and see what the reaction will be from the members there down the road. I mean, that's a long way. I don't want to get into that much more, but
don't forget, you just had that scandal in the Pac-12 where two of the Pac-12 network executives fired for not reporting overpayments. So you're talking about a money situation now, Pac-12 network that's got to come in somewhere too.
So that explains the crappy fees we've been getting. People have been hoarding money and not using it towards the actual growth of the network. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I go there? Sorry.
You two should be in your.
I'm sorry. That was brought to you by Yingling Flight with me, Michelle Carlin. Maybe having a couple
for the
of
record.
those.
Everything I've said is brought to you only by Dr. Pepper.
Catch Vic and Justin for the softball version of First Takes every morning here with.
So here's our question: where's Amali Karam?
I'm not even.
You say you started. Okay, Justin. You're the one that say. First, Justin referred to himself as Stephen A. Smith. Then you said Justin and I are the softball version of First Take. I mean,
Jenna to be the moderator. We could have Jenna be moderator. We have a lot. I think we could have guest moderators, honestly, because it might take more than one person to handle.
We assure you, ladies and gentlemen, we will let our commentators finish our sentences, unlike the other people on that other network that talks 5 seconds after they say something.
All right, comments here. San Diego State Loyola Marymount will surprise some teams. UCSB may in a couple of years. Obviously, Joe Evans now the new head coach at UCSB. That's a storyline. San Diego State made a regional final. Loyola Marymount was outs away from a regional final. West Coast Conference, Loyola Marymount, BYU. Me and Justin will actually address that and tackle that a little bit there. But those are some of the interesting. I do think this will be a good year for the non-Power 5. I think they'll have more teams in the field. And again, I think we're going to have 32 seeds in a year.
Hey, Eric, we have an interview request from Jim Munoz. He wants us to bring on Lisa Fernandez on the show.
Yes, Mr. Lopez. How do you feel about bringing Lisa Fernandez on the podcast?
Yes. How do you feel, Mr. Lopez, about bringing the pitching coach for UCLA on the podcast? Jim, Eric will get back to you. He will message you privately about that situation.
I will. No, we will. We'll work on that. We will. Everybody's invited on the show except Stephen A. Smith. But
because playing the role of Stephen A. Smith, we know none other than Justin McLeod.
Correct. Justin A. McLeod will be with his reference is there. That's a good way to end this show because it's gone off the rails a little bit.
Oh my gosh!
Tell the audience what you got coming up.
Oh gosh. Well, I hit the road Wednesday, 5.5 weeks to start the season. So we got a lot of road trip content coming. 3 weeks in Florida, a couple weeks in North Carolina. So that'll be fun. Yes, I'll be at the Clearwater tournament. So if anybody in the comments is there, you see me, find me. I'm actually a sociable person. I'm not this mean in person. But we've got preseason bracketology out on Monday. Mr. Lopez's bracketology, of course, got that all year long. Gosh, we've got so much college content this year.
Yes, we do.
It's so full. extrainningsoftball.com is the place. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I say a lot of things that you might not agree with. Just Facts Ma'am on Twitter is the place to let me know about it. Just so much college content this year, honestly.
So beautiful.
It's going to be a really fun year.
You'll be there for Bonnie Toll's opener, Michigan at South Florida.
Yeah, I'm doing 3 tournaments in opening week. Tampa on Thursday, Orlando on Friday, and Clearwater Saturday, Sunday, and then Clearwater the next week.
That's the Orlando tournament Justin's mentioning. That's the host right there.
These folks are blowing my head up here in the comments. You're all wonderful humans. I don't know any of you, but you're all
Blaireau, you're going to love the mid-majors breakdown that Justin
Yes, you are.
I'm telling you, literally all 27 conferences.
Jim's going to want to listen to that, too, because that whole San Diego State Loyola Marymount thing he was talking about.
Wait till we both in the breakdown of the Northeast Conference.
And also, by the way, while Eric is doing his thing at UCF and Justin,
and JT Gasso's on our list as well for the take them out. We take all requests.
All requests.
Yes.
All requests. Yes, all requests. And while Justin is making his trip to the Sunshine State, Eric is broadcasting opening weekend. I will be in DeLand, Florida, covering the Frank Griffin Invitational. Stetson will be hosting Fairleigh Dickinson, Providence, and Dayton. So I will be out in the land. So for those of you,
I hope it is not as long as it was today. There was doubts you will even make the show. How many
can we get into this, ladies and gentlemen? Can we
just go ahead, go quick.
We're all family here. So you see, and so it all starts by what had happened was I was broadcasting a slow pitch tournament in Melbourne for USSSA, and the tournament. So it's only those tournaments where you're supposed to have the game and then the if necessary game, as Eric Lopez steps out of the room for a moment. So it gets to 15-10, 7th inning. They get a couple runs. It's 15-12. 2 outs. Runner on needs to get if he has to put the ball in play. So like it's one of those rules where slow pitch, you start with 1-1 count and they don't get a courtesy foul. So popped up. Easy pop-up. Literally, the pitcher can catch it. The pitcher, for whatever reason, decides not to catch the ball and tries to drop and hopes it drops and bounces foul. It bounces fair. They give up 5 runs. They lose the game by 1 run, and they have to play the if necessary game. And the if necessary game doesn't start until 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, the event I had to go to ended at 6. So yeah, I was
So you
so
had
that
a great,
was
you had a great.
that was the reason I saw. Look, if I wanted to, I would have started drinking early, but it is.
Hey, it's just prepping you for this regular season we're all about to embark on. That's what it is. It's just getting you prepped now for what's going to come in the next.
Justin. If that's the case, I've been knee deep in prep for the past 2 weeks coming into today, sir. So I am well prepared for whatever's coming my way. But hey, but here's the thing. I'll just say this, and Eric and I will joke about this. We joke about this off the air. We actually know what our schedule is going to be. We actually know that what we're going to be broadcasting. There are some people out there that still don't know what their broadcast schedule is going to be, and we're what 5 days away from first pitch in Division I softball, and some people don't know where they're going to be. Like, we don't know who's broadcasting the USF Michigan game that USF is hosting on that Thursday night. It kind of is important to get that out there.
I just hope it doesn't fall to me to live tweet, because live tweeting games is not my forte.
They're strong. We all have strong suits, Justin. Live tweeting during games ain't one of them.
No, apparently mine is just saying bad things about everybody in the country.
Well, just the SEC and the Big 12.
I don't know.
Big 12.
I mean, I kind of had a few tonight where I don't know. The comment section enjoyed it though.
The comment section was woo.
Well, I will say this: unlike Stephen A. Smith, I actually believe everything I say.
Yes.
So I do want to make that clear for anybody who hasn't heard me before. And then Womblero, yes, HBCU, both HBCU, the MEAC and the SWAC are both in the podcast on Monday.
Yes.
All right, we've done enough damage. We've done enough damage for one show, folks. Appreciate everybody. Yes. Appreciate everybody tuning in always on the show. Keep it on In the Circle for all the coverage. Vic will be in DeLand next weekend. Justin will be all over the state of Florida, Tampa, Clearwater, Orlando. I will be in Orlando. UCF Georgia kicks things off Thursday night on ESPN Plus. Hope you tune in for that. Thanks, everybody. We'll be around. Also, look for this channel. We'll have some lives and much more. So for Vic, for Justin, I'm Eric. This has been In the Circle Live.
And guess what, gentlemen? I think it's only fitting that we end the show with this.
That's all, folks.
Goodbye, Canada.